Joe Rogan Podcast. Check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
And we're up.
Exciting times, exciting times.
It's a good time to be a conspiracy theorist.
It's a good time to be a conspiracy theorist. It's a great time to be a comedian. These are the good days, the all or nothing days.
Yeah, these are the good days until the election, then who the fuck knows what happens.
Just fast forward to it.
Did you see this thing that the Biden administration pushed through, this new martial law thing?
Yeah.
This is very disturbing. Jamie, please Google this so we can find out what the actual law states, but it's DOD Directive 5240.01, giving the Pentagon power for the first time in history to use lethal force to kill Americans on U.S. soil who protest government policies.
What are they expecting?
5250.01, sounds right?
Is that what it is?
Sorry.
Did I tell you what it is? I'm sorry. 5240.01. DOD directive. This is from RFK Jr. Posted this on Twitter, and I'm finding out about it because people are blowing me up about it. That's fucking terrifying. That is a terrifying thing to push through for the first time in U.S. history, giving the military the ability to shoot and kill American citizens.
That's crazy too, and it's interesting because with the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act and stuff like that, it's almost like they kind of, in a weird way, just make it legal what they're already doing. If you use
what is that? The Smith Modernization Act?
The Smith-Mundt Modernization Act that Obama pushed through, which basically made it so it was legal for the U.S. government to use propaganda against its citizens, which they were already doing in different ways through CIA and all that stuff. So it's not like we can legally do it. You can't sue us now.
How crazy is it that it's legal to lie?
How
it's
crazy
legal
is that?
For the government to not just legally lie, but they can concoct completely fabricated stories just to push a narrative if they decide that it's in the best interest of national security or whatever.
To just manipulate energy in your mind and all that stuff to get you to believe certain things. And we need to bring back shame. That's my opinion.
Well, they have none.
It's
not going to work. It can't bring back shame to lizard people.
Yeah, they can't. They can't feel anything. It's in their reptilian brains, which is some weird shit going on right now with that.
It's weird because, that David Icke stuff where he said they're all lizard people? I don't think they're really lizard people. I don't think they're really shapeshifters, but they do behave in a reptilian way, like a corporation does, like a psychopath.
I don't know if they're actual reptilians, dude, but there is something going on that they are a group of people because they're all related, which is very weird. If you you go back far enough, they're all related. Like if you study Obama and Bush, right? Because I remember when Obama was running, I was like, oh, change. It's going to be change.
Hope and change.
Hope and change. And then you start studying like the Bushes and the Obamas, and their first ancestor, their common ancestor, is a Hinckley, dude. Right? And you go...
Like John Hinckley, the guy who tried to kill
100%.
What?
Yes. Their common ancestor is a Hinckley. And then when you realize that...
Hinckley was related to Obama and Bush?
And related to the Bushes had dinner with the Hinckleys the night before Reagan got shot. And here's the craziest thing.
What?
Yeah. Is that crazy?
Do you think... Okay, I always thought Hinckley was a lone nut that was infatuated with Jodie Foster. What... So...
No, dude. And there's actually interviews, dude, where he said, Uncle George told me to do it.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
Didn't they just let him out?
Yeah, and now he's doing plain and coffee beans because he's put out an album or something like that, dude. he's touring off it. But that's the crazy thing.
Barack Obama's the 10th cousin once removed of George W. Bush through Samuel Hinckley of Cape Cod. Holy shit.
It's so crazy.
I've never gone down the Hinckley rabbit hole. So John Hinckley, the guy who killed or shot rather Reagan, what was his deal? Was he
was like
MK Ultra?
Yeah, he was a little off. He was like the one family member that was a little off.
A little off.
Here's the craziest thing about that thing. That the Hinckley that shoots at Reagan, he's the first one that can use the I'm mentally not capable of defending myself. I'm too mentally ill. What's the law where you can Where you,
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because right around then, John Lennon was also getting like assassinated, and his killer tried to use that. I'm not mentally capable.
Who killed John Lennon? Do we remember?
What was his name? What was it, dude? And I watched that whole story.
Is there a rabbit hole to go down on that one too?
That's a crazy story too, because like we had this kind of there's 2 eras of like assassinations where like everybody was getting assassinated, or they were attempting.
Chapman, Mark David Chapman, shot and killed Lennon. Now, is he an MK Ultra guy too?
Bro,
You think?
So he had that. What book did he have? On the Rye, what is it called?
Catcher in the Rye.
Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah,
That's
that
some
guy.
NK Ultra shit right there.
He's still alive?
Is he still alive?
69 years old. Getting fucked in jail.
Yeah.
Wow.
MK Ultra shit is left and right, dude.
The second gunman, not Mark David Chapman.
Yeah, nobody
may have
talks
shot
about that
John
stuff.
Lennon. Author claims. Oh, author claims. Those authors.
Well, you
never
know the
I used to believe in authors.
the door guy at his hotel, his apartment building was a CIA FBI spook.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they just load it up. When it's meant to happen, you don't get out of there. There's layers upon layers upon layers. That's why when you talk about any of these things that even like when you talk about the Trump assassination, there's a lot of stuff I go, that's a little weird, like that's a really weird situation right there. Because if you study these high impact events, they're like it's kind of like that scene in John Wick. Do you know where John Wick, like the hit goes out on him and he's in the plaza, and now every assassin has a flip phone suddenly. They're all on flip phones, and it's like, boom, take out John. That's a high impact event. Like there's layers upon layers upon layers where you're not getting out of there. Like 9/11, JFK.
What is this, Jamie?
Documents show CIA and FBI spied on John Lennon.
Oh.
For fear of the interrupting the election in '72.
Which one was 72? Was that McGovern? I think that was when Hunter S. Thompson wrote Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail.
McGovern and Nixon.
Yeah, that was the one where Nixon won by the largest margin in history because McGovern's running mate, turns out he was cuckoo and had gotten electroshock therapy.
Oh, dude.
And didn't tell anybody about it. And did you ever see the press conference when he announced it? Bro, the dude looks like he just got out of the pool. He's fucking sweating. And they're like, you thought Tim Walsh was a bad VP. This guy, they're like, no. No, you can't be the vice president.
If you study the Malcolm X assassination, the guy who is giving him mouth to mouth at the end is a New York police officer that was so undercover that even like the New York police didn't know about it. It was this crazy like secret group within they didn't even go through like getting their badges and anything like that. They were like separated early and then infiltrated all of these organizations. Like the guys who shot him were working with the FBI. The guy who's giving him CPR is a undercover New York PD.
How exciting must it be to be an undercover dude? To be like deep. Imagine being like a fucking IDF soldier who's in Hamas.
Dude, that's crazy.
You're in Hamas. Yeah. You're in there.
And you're so deep too.
You're so deep that no one even knows what your actual job is. And there's like, Israel doesn't play.
Israel don't give a fuck.
They don't give a fuck. They have a bunch of those dudes. Like infiltrated
Everywhere.
Hezbollah.
Everywhere.
They've got guys in everywhere.
The
That's
US
how they blew
government,
everybody up
it's
with those
everywhere.
pagers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That pager thing is one of the most gangster moves in the history of espionage.
And it's like you guys,
Is that espionage, technically? No.
Yeah, 100%.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, it was 100. It's clandestine and all that stuff.
This episode of the Joe Rogan Experience is brought to you by Call of Duty. You know, when a new Call of Duty drops, everyone's trying to find a way to squeeze in those extra hours of gameplay. I get it. Life is busy, but sometimes you just need.
Hey, Joe, it's the replacer. Yeah, no, you. Hey, I'm going to take it from here so you can enjoy some Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Great. Now listen up, folks. Life can be chaotic, but you shouldn't have to miss out on the latest Call of Duty just because you've got, I don't know, responsibilities. That's where I come in. I will handle the boring stuff like work, chores, even podcast ads. So you can dive right into the fight. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is out October 25th. So dive in because I've got your back. Remember, I replace, you play. It's that simple.
Man, the replacer always gets it done. Seriously, though, if you're hooked on Call of Duty, this is your time to jump in. Head over to callofduty.com/Black Ops 6 to get in the game. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, available now. Fucking wild move, man. What a wild move.
And then you study where like
blow their dicks off.
they could get any like they could have this thing listening to us. It's that yeah. The Buddha's listening to
Believe
us.
me.
This coffee's that's where it's
now
at.
they have Wi-Fi and the ability with Wi-Fi to see everything in the room.
Yeah.
Not only does Wi-Fi see you, it knows what position you're in and it sees you as you're moving around.
It knows everything.
Yeah.
It know even these phones. Like
Oh yeah. They never shut off.
Who
by
was
the way.
I talking to? I was talking to some people last night at your club, and they were talking about how like your phone knows exactly like what time it is and what you tend to look at that time. So when you flip it up, those are the apps that come up. They have you down on lockdown. Everything. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. Like I've been studying this stuff a lot, and this is the weirdest thing, is where everybody thinks I'm a crazy person.
I don't.
Thank you. Finally, somebody gets me. It got really lonely there for a while.
Well, you were out there at the end of the pier. You were out there at the end of the pier. The hurricane was coming.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's Sam doing?
Yeah, he's scaring
He's like,
us.
guys,
Yeah.
we need water. We need sandbags.
And now they still think I'm crazy, but at least they're like, okay, he's right about everything, right?
It was fascinating to watch Callan slowly melt away the layer that he had put up, the blinders that he had put up all of his life.
And it's like, so if I get a text from him, you're right about everything.
Yeah.
Where do you get your news from? I'm like, the streets, dog.
Bro, Callan is so hard to convince. He and I, we had this long-ass conversation in Utah a couple weeks ago when I was there for the UFC. And this long-ass conversation where I was laying some things out for him and then showing him. He's like, no way. I was like, yeah, read it. He's like, what the fuck? I go, yeah read it.
It's so crazy because, he's super highly educated, and Brian Callen is a sweetheart. People don't realize that. He's almost to a point like he's a people pleaser where he just wants to make sure everybody's happy.
A little bit of that.
A little bit. And he kind of puts himself in some weird situations once in a while. But at the end of the day, he has a good heart and he means really well.
He's a great guy. I've been friends with Brian for 30 years.
Yeah, he's the best.
We're real good friends.
And
I love him to death.
And he wants to have hope.
Yeah, well, he wants to believe that the government is good.
Yes.
And I think the government is mostly good.
Yes.
That's what I think about people. I think people are mostly good. I think most people are great. But I think the reason the Second Amendment exists is some people are not great.
Yeah.
Some people are really bad, and you want to protect the great people from the people that are really bad. And that's a reality, unfortunate reality. I would like that to go away. I would like there'd be no need for guns because everyone's amazing. That would be the best.
100%.
That'd be the best. But pretending that everyone's the best without fixing all the problems that make people fucked up in the first place while trying to remove guns so only outlaws have guns is the dumbest fucking strategy. And every
It's so
city that
stupid.
pulls that off, like Chicago or Detroit or any of these places that try that shit, it's a disaster and a fucking war zone. I mean, there's more people get murdered in Chicago every weekend than probably any city in the country.
The places with the strictest gun laws have the most violence.
Yeah, it's fucking dumb. It doesn't work that way. You have to look at things realistically, and then you have to look at the root of the problem instead of looking at the actions. Don't look at the actions. Look at what causes the actions. Extreme poverty, despair, gang-ridden, crime-ridden neighborhoods. If you don't fix them, you're going to keep getting the same kind of people that come out of there. So that is where we spent $175 billion on Ukraine.
That's so crazy,
We could
dude.
have easily fixed all of our inner city problems. We could have set up community centers, given people nutritious food. We could have completely renovated the schools, fixed the schools, brought in athletes and musicians and people to do seminars and show people how they can get out of things, teach people trades.
Life skills.
Life skills. Teach people things that you can use, you can apply, you can get jobs, show them how to get jobs. You know, there's a lot of people that are fucked, man. They're fucked, and they have no one reaching a hand to try to help them out. And we could have done that.
Scarcity, dude. That's scarcity.
But is that on purpose? Yeah. I don't think it is. I think they're acting in the interest of the people that pay them. And the interest of the people that pay them is supporting the military-industrial complex, the pharmaceutical-industrial complex, and then all the people that give them money keep getting more money from them and ignore all the other people. This is what I think they're doing. And this is what I think they're doing with voting as well. I mean, I think it's the exact same thing. The reason why they're letting in so many people and giving them money and putting them up in hotels and then asking for amnesty for all these people that came in. We need people. This is like this new narrative. We're not having enough babies. We need people to come into this country. Sure. Not that way.
Yeah.
Not where you don't know who the fuck they are.
We'd like to vet them.
15,000 of them are rapists. 14,000 of them are murderers, convicted murderers.
It's like
this is just what we know.
It's like you're having a party and you're like, yeah, there's not a lot of people there. Someone's like, I'll invite a bunch of people.
Go
and
to
you're
South
like,
Central. Open up the doors. Find the gangbangers.
Yeah,
bring them in.
But then you study a lot of this stuff, and it just gets into like I think like this kind of like dark energy stuff, man. It's like, if you study like what they did to the Native Americans, if you study what they did to the black community, they run the same playbook over and over again,
Right.
which is take like if you study the natives, right? They killed all the buffalo, which took away all the jobs from the guys.
That's a little more complicated. That the Native American story is a little more complicated.
But it's
in that regard, because the buffalo thing, there's some evidence that some people were killing the buffalo to deprive the Native Americans of food, but most of it was just wanton and destructive recklessness and just like greed, just horrible greed.
Yeah.
You know what they were doing it for? Pickled tongues. That was the primary thing they were getting. Before they were even getting skins from the buffalo, they were getting tongues. Tongues was like one of the big things because you could take them, you could pickle them, you could send them back east, and they were worth a lot of money.
That's crazy.
Because a buffalo tongue's like that big.
Yeah.
So they're shooting this 1,800-pound animal for a fucking 10-pound tongue.
It's nuts. And then the guys didn't have the men didn't have jobs. And,
Yes.
And the women always had jobs because they had children, and that was their job. And then you look at the black community; they did that exact same thing with the crack epidemic. They took away all the jobs, they flooded it with drugs, they locked up all the men, destroyed the community. And now you see that kind of happening in the bigger cities now, where it's like I was flying on this one airline, I forget what it is, and they were like, "We're training only women now to be pilots,and I'm like, is that the best idea right here?
How about train the best humans? If they happen to be
100%.
women, great.
Yeah.
If they're not women, don't hire them.
So you're taking
Hire
away
the best people.
taking away from jobs from guys, and like as men, we're.
But you know what that is? That's all that DEI stuff where they have to like, in order to get funding, in order to like, there's a financial incentive,
right,
to meet DEI quotas. A lot of companies are abandoning them now.
Yeah, 100.
All of it happened during the Obama administration.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen? We showed it yesterday on the podcast. Was it yesterday or the day before? The spike in racism.
Yeah.
All these things on social media.
Dave talk about that one time.
All of it comes up at 2012. It just starts at 2011 and just spikes. Thousands and thousands of
the articles, the mentions in the newspapers.
God. It just mentions on social media all of a sudden became a big thing. And then you have all your race hustlers who are taking advantage of these DEI quotas, and they provide seminars for exorbitant rates. This is the Al Sharpton hustle, the Jesse Jackson hustle. You know, all those, there's a lot of those guys that capitalize on white guilt and got in with a fucking nice fucking deal.
Paycheck, dude.
Big cash,
Yeah,
making
crazy.
big money. I want shrimp cocktail in the green room. You know, they for diversity, hook me up with some Dom Perignon. And they pulled it off. And that's what you're always going to have. You're always going to have people that take advantage of any kind of a situation like that. And I think, but that one seems to be, I don't think they realized the impact it was going to have. I think they were just trying to push a narrative that people were racist and like we should not be racist, and it was like a good talking point for the Obama administration. But then it spread to transphobia and homophobia. It just went wild.
Yeah, they're just looking for
xenophobia.
stuff. I think there's a bigger play and it's divide and conquer, and these are playbooks that plays in the playbook that they run to do this. And it's like, for me, it's like, study the Cultural Revolution of China, study the Bolshevik Revolution of Russia. And I'm sorry, but people can think I'm crazy, but what the Nazis did to Germany. It's like these are playbooks to destroy these giant, powerful countries that you can't just invade because you'll get your dick kicked in. So you have to kind of destroy from inside. And I think everything you're talking about right now is out of a playbook of cultural Marxism, that this is how you destroy from the inside. And like that Yuri Bevanov or whatever his last name is. Dude, I just saw another video he did where and the guy ruined it by putting up all these stupid pictures and it made it way more weaponized than it needed to be. But man, he breaks down how you break down society. There's a couple videos, one of him sitting down, and then there's one where he's giving a seminar, and bro, he breaks down every single step. And you go, that's happening right now, that's happening right now,
they've destroyed the confidence that people have in America. They've destroyed the faith in America. People think that the American flag is racist.
It's so crazy.
It's so crazy. Schools will kick you out if you come in with an American flag t-shirt. Like, this is bananas.
It is
but yet
crazy.
Pride flags are mandatory in some places.
It's so crazy to me, and I'm working on this bit right now because like everything in television is like Civil War. There's gonna be a Civil War. There's gonna be movies, and I'm like, between who? Like the right and the left? That sounds like a curb stomping to me. It's like you're gonna have like the rednecks versus the furries, and like who's fighting here, dude? It's like ridiculous. And because like it's gotten so crazy that like if you called somebody a fascist, that meant they were like taking away your rights. Now it's just your dad who watches Fox News.
Right.
It's like so stupid. Racist. I get called racist. It doesn't. It's almost like a badge of honor at this point to be called these terms because it's just by annoying people who I don't like anyways.
Right.
So it's just it's destroyed this kind of fabric between relationships between everybody.
It's destroyed the meaning of words, and it really opens the door for real racists. Like if you only have one word and the word is racist, and you apply that word to anyone. Anyone who disagrees with you, like they apply it to Graham Hancock, the archaeologist.
So crazy.
I had this fucking guy on, this Flint Dibble guy, who's an archaeologist, who literally wrote things implying that Graham Hancock's work empowers white supremacy. And I asked him about it, and he was like trying to skid around it and dance around it, but I've seen him do it online with other people too. And this is a guy in Graham Hancock who's talking about ancient cultures. He's literally saying, we're talking about like Egypt. No one's saying that like white people built the pyramids.
Yeah,
they're
so
saying
stupid.
that they've been there longer than people think. That's it. By the same fucking people that lived there in northern Africa. It's the same fucking people. No one's no one is saying white people. There's no white people back. I mean, especially in that area. What are you talking about? It's not a white thing. It's Egyptians. It's Africans.
I love hidden history.
But yet
dude.
you can say racist, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, they're racist." Back away.
So
Back
crazy,
away.
dude.
It's nuts. But
It's
it loses.
so crazy.
The problem is there's real racists out there. There's fucking KKK's real. There's real white supremacists out there. And when you call a fucking archaeologist, an amateur archaeologist, a racist because he's like trying to say like, "Hey, maybe this stuff is older than we think it is." Well, what are you going to call the real? Are they super racists? What are those?
And what does this
Far
mean? Like, what's the
racists?
play? Like, play the tape out. What does that mean? Like if you go, this is white supremacy. What does that mean? Is he trying to say that they're stealing like their valor? Is that what they're saying? Like
they're trying to take away the notion that these ancient indigenous people constructed these things, but no one's saying that. Like, he even implied that Graham has said something about aliens, which he definitely hasn't. He doesn't think aliens built it. No, they're misrepresenting the argument, and the argument is a fascinating one, and it's backed by actual science. And the argument is there's a thing called the Younger Dryas impact theory that happened around 11,800 years ago. Documented, proven, 100% real event. They know the dates that it happens because it happens every year. Was it November and June? Is that when the Leonid meteor shower? Is that what it is? So there's a comet shower that we pass through twice a year, and every now and then a big chunk, like the Tunguska event. The Tunguska event in the early 1900s, which flattened like 1 million acres in Siberia, is the exact same time period where we pass through this shower. So they believe that at 11,800 years ago, this impact, and this is proven by core samples that show high levels of iridium, high levels of this nuclear glass that happens on impacts. And they find this stuff all in the same area, around 11,800 BC, and then another one that's somewhere around 10,000, or 11,800 years ago, rather, and another one that's like 10,000 plus years ago. So they think there's like multiple events that took place over a few thousand years, which totally makes sense if we pass through this fucking shower all the time and it nuked a giant chunk of Siberia in the early 1900s. So all he's saying, all Graham Hancock is saying is we are a species with amnesia. And to call him a racist, it's the whole thing's nuts.
I love it, dude. And like, I think the world before that event was crazy, bro. It was like, I think it's like Game of Thrones meets like Harry Potter. Like, it was the craziest thing ever. Everything, like, even if you study like the stuff that happened in the Bible and all these crazy things they say people did, I think all that stuff was possible before that. And it just wiped out this incredible civilization that was so advanced, and they could manipulate energy and they could do all that. Who built the pyramids? Maybe Nephilim. Who knows, dude? Giants just lifting logs and giant bricks and putting them in there.
Whoever did it, they had an insane level of sophistication that doesn't make any sense when you compare the rest of the world. The rest of the world at 2,500 BC, which is the conventional date. Let's say that's correct. Just the conventional date. Graham Hancock thinks it was probably much earlier. But let's say the conventional date. No one else was doing anything like that, 2,500 BC. Not even close. So what was going on there? Did they just have insane resources? Did they have so much food and water and they existed for thousands of years? Just like, look, we were talking about this. I had Brian Cox on yesterday, and we were talking about how if you go back literally 120 years ago, you have Wilbur and Orville Wright flying this bullshit-ass plane.
Yeah.
Now, 120 years later, you have Elon Musk and Starship X catching rockets on a fucking machine.
That was crazy. That was crazy.
The kind of progress that you're looking at is fucking impossible to imagine.
It's so crazy.
So imagine if these Egyptians had this same sort of situation where they had an established civilization, an established culture, plenty of food, plenty of resources, brilliant people, no war. And then they just start figuring stuff out, but on a different pathway. Instead of with like engines and internal combustion and electronics, they go a different way. And we don't know what that way is. But it's totally possible that way exists.
Yeah, there's a lot of great YouTube channels that break this stuff down, like On My Lunch Break and Analog. I've had him on my show, and he was telling me this story about how like they were drilling low, and then they got to this, and there was this giant like cavern, and they found like a civilization down there that was empty. And he talked about one time where they just kept drilling, and they just would find civilization on top of civilization, and they got low enough that they found like in America, they found like Chinese writing low enough.
Where is this?
Yeah, dude. If you study these guys, they have these YouTube channels. It's On My Lunch Break and Analog, and they just break down kind of like something I talked about last time I was on here, which was Tartaria. But it's lost civilizations. How our timeline is completely fucked. It's not even real. There's people think we're millions of years old, and we have these giant events that kind of come and reset us. But they dig deep enough. There's like civilizations keep digging. There's another civilization over and over and over. We're just on top of giants, dude.
Well, that's the case with Egypt. There's old kingdom and then there's new kingdom stuff. And when you go deeper into the sand, you find more complex buildings.
Yeah, dude.
Which is nuts. Bigger stones, like crazy stuff, man. That old kingdom Egypt stuff is a specific style. And so, maybe that was 11,800 years ago, and then maybe 10,000 years ago is the other one. Like, we don't know. We don't know how old that stuff is.
Well, it's almost like the Egyptians just kind of moved in, and they're like, these are our pyramids. And
the Egyptians of Cleopatra's age, perhaps.
Yeah.
But someone, a long-ass time ago had knowledge of the constellations, had an understanding of how to point something to perfect, due north, south, east, and west. And just the calculations that have to be involved in getting 2,300,000 stones to come to a perfect point.
Crazy.
Like, that's insane. And then some of them, they're moving these stones from 500 miles through the mountains. And then they have stones that are like 80 tons, and they're lifting them 300 feet onto the ceiling. Like, you tell me how they're doing this.
Yeah, dude.
How the fuck? How would we do that now?
But
forget
Joe,
about then.
Even if you go into these small kind of towns, you just go into pick any state. You go into a small town. Their city hall is like the most beautiful building you've ever seen, surrounded by trailers. And you're like, who was here? Who made that? Why'd they make that? And where'd they go? And you see that all over the place.
But you know, the thing is, like, craftsmen, for like, if you go into like old houses and old churches, the craftsmanship is insane. Have you ever been to Vatican?
No, that's on the list.
Vatican's incredible. St. Peter's Basilica is fucking mind-blowing. You walk around, it took hundreds of years to make, and the craftsmanship is just spectacular. When you walk around, your jaw's just hanging out like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Show some photos of St. Peter's Basilica. Dude, it's immense. I don't know how tall the ceiling is. It's fucking crazy tall. But it's like everywhere you look is incredible, ornate craftsmanship. And, you know, that was a thing that people did. Like, show the inside. That photo. Right,
Look at that.
Click on that. Look at that, man.
The detail. Oh,
Dude,
my God.
In real life, it blows your mind. Because you're just like, how? How long? What was the motivation? How did you get the money? Like, who did you steal all that money from?
Crazy.
Click on that other one, Jamie. The one, yeah.
Wow.
Look at that. And then the one to the left of that, too. Look at that. Fuck, dude. And when you walk around in there, photos barely do it justice. See, well, go the one there in the lower, the right-hand side, Jamie, with all the people in it, right next to that to the right. Yeah, right there. Look at that one. So that gives you an understanding of the scale. You see all these people roaming around in it. It's fucking amazing. And so people were just really good at carpentry and craftsmanship back then. And it was a skill that was taught in school. You know, like how many sculptors are there today? It's probably a dying thing. It's probably very few actual sculptors. But back then, it was a real craft that you can get into. And especially, you know, you're doing all this stuff by hand. Like, they didn't even have power tools. Okay? So that whole thing was built without table saws, no band saws. It was all planers and hand chisels and hand saws.
Something, dude. You don't know. I mean, like, we don't know the technology.
We know the dates of that. We know the people that did it. That's all doable. It's especially doable over hundreds and hundreds of years of working on it, which is what we know that they did. When you get to things like the pyramid, all definitions kind of fall apart because there's too many stones. I think they said that they gave a timeline of something in the neighborhood of 20 years, the Pharaoh Khufu, his lifetime. And that in order to build that pyramid just within his lifetime, within his reign, which was like 20 years, you would have to place a stone every 30 seconds or something crazy like that. You have to cut, place, measure, and it would take 30 seconds per stone. And you have to round the clock. How the fuck?
It's so crazy. Like that, they're building that, and now I drive through this country doing stand up, and you see like churches are in like strip malls now, right? It's like you got a church right next to a Jamba Juice.
Right.
There's nobody's building these amazing buildings anymore.
Right.
And it's super sad, and it's also like, is it done on purpose to kind of make you raise your anxiety? Like we used to have.
That's where you and I part ways.
That's
I don't
fine.
think it's done on purpose.
I'll go my way.
I think you get the Joel Osteens who are in a giant fucking stadium because they want to make money. You know, that's what religion has become, a way to get tax exempt status, and you can be a baller. You could be that Kenneth Copeland guy with fucking flying around on Tyler Perry's jet.
That guy's crazy. You see that interview?
Scary.
About the dean. Oh man, when the woman interviews him about what?
Say that. Don't you say that I did.
Crazy,
Ooh,
dude.
fucking vicious, man.
I feel bad
Scary.
for Jesus. All the people in his name are like real retards.
Yeah, that guy's not in Jesus.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is like, there's some scams that are legal. And
It's crazy.
televangelist is the best scam that's legal. Because it's legal.
Start your own church.
It's legal. You don't have to be a real righteous person. You don't have to be following the Bible. A lot of them are gay. They're fucking people left and right. Like, remember Tammy Faye Baker and Jim Baker
Cuckings.
and Jessica Hahn. Remember that scandal?
Well, was it the thing that he liked to just watch his wife get railed? Wasn't that
was
the
that
whole
him?
story? Was
I don't know.
The doc at the end, or the mini series on them was like he would just love to watch her get railed.
Maybe.
It's crazy.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I mean,
But
you get
he
that
was
rich
banging
getting the weird shit.
Jessica Hahn,
Yeah.
who wound up banging Sam Kinison, which is hilarious. It's like,
Places you will go and the people you will see.
I remember one time Sam Kinison was on Howard Stern, and Jessica Hahn was calling in, "You're a piece of shit." Like, fuck you. This lady, what?
So gorgeous.
Back then, those were national stories. Those were huge national stories when a preacher, like when Jimmy Swagger got caught with hookers.
Yeah.
I've sinned.
Yeah.
Remember that? He was crying.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy too because like I grew up in that era and that all that stuff kind of made me like question the church and then question God. And then I just kind of go, because I've been spending some time with my friends. We kind of listen to Johnny Cash read the Bible.
Oh, wow.
It's the best.
How old was he when he read the Bible?
I don't know how old he was, but it's like very soothing. And it's like, I'm going to be honest with you, like I'm on this journey right now, but I've never sat down and read the Bible.
Can
I've
I
been
stop you
told-
right there?
Yeah.
I hate when people say they're on a journey.
I don't know.
Just don't say it anymore.
Okay. Well, I'm going for a walk.
I'm kidding. Say it.
No, it's fine.
Nothing
I
wrong,
don't care.
Nothing
I don't
wrong
care.
with being on a
But
spiritual
I'm
journey.
just trying to learn,
Yes.
right? Because I've been like a real knuckle dragger my whole life.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get into the higher vibrational, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm studying this shit.
Cash reading the New Testament. Oh, so he was old. It was old Johnny Cash, 1990.
It's
Okay,
the
not
best.
too old.
It's the
not
best.
too old. Oh wow, that's fucking great.
And you just listen to them. And like, I never sat down and read the Bible. I've never actually read what's in it. I've been always told what was in it. I never read it.
Mm-hmm.
And now to hear it actually read, which technically I'm not reading it either, I'm listening, but you
Right.
know, it's like it's really interesting.
I tried to say I read a book to Donnell Rawlings, and I told him I read it on. I listened to it on audio tape. He goes, "So you didn't read it?" I was like, "I absorbed the information, but you did not read it."
That's
Okay,
Brian
you're right.
Callen too.
You're right,
I
I
read
didn't
this
read
book.
it.
You listen to a tape, which
Yeah.
is fine.
I haven't read a book in a long time.
Well, because you're busy, dude.
I read articles. I read science papers, but I don't read very many books. Most books I get on the in the sauna, or I get on the way over to here.
Yeah, I love it. I love because I can retain knowledge better listening than I can actually reading it because I just go, what did I just read? And I have to go back, and I'm the worst
It's
reader
a skill.
possible.
You have to learn how to absorb information. So it's like everything else. Like if you're talking to someone but you're drifting, you know, you're not really thinking about that. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, I got to do laundry. You know, you start thinking
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Then
And
you're
then you
not
gotta
paying
catch up to
attention.
what they're saying.
Yeah,
You're just
like,
looking for
what?
clues.
Especially if you're talking to someone who's just talking at you. People that talk at you are so brutal because they're not really there with you. They just have a thing and they're pressing play.
You
and
just
they're
happen to
going.
be there,
You happen to be there.
and they're just drive-by
Yeah.
shooting you.
And they just want you to smile and make them look good. It's kind of weird. Like, they don't really give a fuck what your opinions are. But if you're talking to one of those people, it's super easy to drift.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
You just start thinking about shit you got to do. Oh, yeah, I should probably do that. Oh, I forgot to call that guy.
Well, I'm
You know?
a crazy person, so my brain is thinking about 1,000 things at one time.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah,
We're both
dude.
comedians.
I got like I'm like an iPhone. I'm multitasking, doing a bunch of stuff.
We were trying to have a conversation about this in the green room the other day. You know, like all the different people, I go, listen, anybody doing this job is out of their fucking mind.
Crazy, dude.
Which is fine. It's okay to be out of your mind. My favorite people are out of their fucking mind.
Yeah.
Just be a good person. Be out of your mind, but be nice. Be out of your mind, but be nice. Be generous. Be charitable. It's okay to be out of your mind. But you should also probably figure out a way to manage your mind. You know? My
Focus it.
way to manage my mind is cold plunges, workouts, saunas, brutalize myself, meditate. That way, when I do such difficult shit on my own that the difficulties of regular life are pretty passive. They're not that big of a deal. It's not like 3 minutes in 33-degree water.
You go through it
You
to
know,
get to it.
It's not a kettlebell workout where you fucking think you're gonna throw up. It's okay. Like jiu-jitsu class, you're getting strangled. If you get through all that stuff, like regular life is easier. That's why, like, being on the couch is bad. Being on the couch is bad, not because it's not great to be on the couch. I love to be on the couch. I love watching me a little Netflix, sitting down for a little Shogun binge watching. It's fucking awesome. But it's too comfortable. And when that becomes your baseline, then anything that's uncomfortable becomes difficult to handle because most of your day is like relaxation and sedentary lifestyle. That's not good for you. It's not good for your brain. Forget about your body. Forget about vanity. It's not good for the brain. The brain you need voluntary adversity so that life's adversity becomes normal. Like if I'm sure you know military guys.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends that have been in war. And those guys that have been in war have a completely different reaction to regular bullshit.
I'm sure.
Regular bullshit is not that big a deal to those guys. They're just like, this is just regular bullshit. This is easy day. You know, because war is fucking crazy. And it's like, how much have you seen? How much have you had to deal with? And that's why rich kids and spoiled kids, they have such a hard time navigating life. Look at Hunter Biden.
I agree.
Look at that poor bastard.
Yeah.
You know, if that guy was your dad, if your dad was the fucking vice president, he was never home, he'd probably be doing coke too.
Yep.
He'd probably be in Vietnam, smoking crack with street hookers, taking pictures of your dick.
Yeah.
Why not?
That guy's got a huge dick for always on coke. It's like he doesn't get coke dick. It's unbelievable.
Sure, he's taking Viagra too.
It's a fucking hog for a dude on crack.
Well, I never looked, but congratulations.
Well, yeah, I have to do research.
Somebody asked me, they had a copy of the entire laptop. They said, do you want it? I said, no. I do not want that.
Why do you want that?
I do not want that. I don't want to be in possession of that.
Yeah.
But also, like, isn't it illegal? Like, that's not yours.
There's things on there that seem illegal.
Well, I'm sure there's activities that seem illegal, but isn't it illegal to be in possession of someone's private property that was copied without their knowledge?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's illegal.
Yeah, I think
you
so.
don't want that.
Yeah. So, you know what's interesting?
I don't want to interrupt you, but that's one of the dirtiest playbooks. When they inject child porn into someone's laptop,
Yeah.
they do that one all the time.
Yeah.
They do that one all the time.
Yeah, it's
they
really
just
scary.
did that to the brother. Well, this is not true. Let me say this. What you don't know how many people they do that to, but they have done it. Someone in some intelligence agency has dropped child porn into a person's computer. That's a fact. That's a real strategy. People have talked about it openly. People have been caught on tape talking about it. But people get busted, and you're like, oh, how convenient that this guy got caught with child porn. Now, everything he says, you'll never listen to again. One of a guy that got caught with child porn was the brother of the guy who went to the golf course to try to kill Trump.
Also, the brother of the guy who was blamed for the Vegas shooting. Same playbook. Crazy,
What a
right?
coincidence
Yeah.
that both of their brothers happen to be child molesters.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And they just put it on your computer, and then they raid you, and then there's nothing you can do about it.
Hey, if that is the one most unforgivable thing of all time.
I agree.
If you have that on your fucking computer, everybody agrees you should be dead. Except some of these crazy professors now who are trying to make the term minor attracted persons.
I'll fight everybody.
Everybody. I'll fight them all. I'll punch a lady.
It's so crazy. Because, you know, the weird thing about that, because there was this whole push, you know, about drag queens. And, dude, I've been to drag shows. They're great. Personally, I don't think they need to be reading to kindergartners. That's just my personal opinion,
Yeah.
right? And now they all a lot of them get busted with having weird past, right? And the reason I do that is like, whether it's the child sex changes and all that stuff, is like, most of the people pushing that stuff, okay, are in therapy for trauma that occurred to them as children. And now they're totally fine with traumatizing children with weird ass shit. Like, to me, like, kindergarten should be A's, B's, C's, adding up, you know, math. It shouldn't
Play
be
games, football.
Yeah, like drag queens seem like algebra to me, like really advanced shit that most adults don't even quite
Well, first
understand.
of all, why would you ever push anything sexual to people that haven't even come close to puberty?
Yeah,
That
it's
doesn't
so
that
gross
makes
to me.
no sense. It's gross. It's not just gross, it's disturbing, and we're also ignoring the fact that human beings are extremely malleable. You can convince people of all sorts of things. You can influence people to do all sorts of things. We know that. That's why cults exist, right? That's why you can get... Why do you think they get little kids to become suicide bombers? Because they don't know any better. Try getting a 55-year-old guy with a wife and kids and a job to be a suicide bomber. He'd be like, what? Try getting some fucking guy in New Jersey that takes the train into Manhattan every day. Try to get that guy to be a suicide bomber. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? I'm trying to pay my mortgage.
Right.
I'm going to my kids' recital tonight.
100%.
I'm not blowing myself up. For what?
They have people that rely on them, and then kids just have nothing, and they're
They have
very
nothing.
trusting of adults too.
And they really believe that they're going to go to heaven. They really believe that they're going to be martyrs. And then they have framed photographs. I remember there was this documentary where there was this school in the Middle East, and they were talking about today's students are tomorrow's holy martyrs, and it was printed on the wall, and in it they had photographs of various children that had blown themselves up, and they were wearing the vests.
That's so.
It's fucking.
It's so fucked up.
Bananas.
It's so fucked
But
up.
that's the playbook. The playbook is you get young people that don't know any better because they're easily influenced. So in the guise of all this woke shit, people have put aside what's fundamental about human nature. There's a reason why you don't let children get tattoos, because they make poor decisions. So why are you letting them get their dick cut off?
I couldn't agree more. It's like, what insane world are we okay with children cutting their dick? It just makes no. When
Or
you're
cutting their breasts off,
Yeah.
or taking hormone blockers. Oh, did you see the latest one? New York Times wrote about this. They did a study on hormone blockers for children, and they decided to not release the
I
study.
saw that yesterday.
Because the study would empower people who go to J.K. Rowling's tweet
so nuts
tweet
to
about
me.
this, because she had the perfect response to this. Her response to this was so perfect. The whole thing is completely insane. If you're going to do a study that proves that hormone blockers are good for children and you find out it's not, the correct thing to do is say, hey, we just found something out and we shouldn't give hormone blockers to kids. Forget about this is just for like happiness sake. We must not publish a study that says we're harming children, because people who say we're harming children will use the study as evidence that we're harming children, which might make it difficult for us to continue to harming children.
It's so sad and tragic that people are
Unbelievable.
okay with this.
U.S. study on puberty blockers goes unpublished because of politics, doctor says. The leader of the long-running study said the drugs did not improve mental health in children with gender distress, and that the findings might be weaponized by opponents of the care, and should be, because they're not only that, there's severe health consequences. Also, there's the other bullshit that you could just like reverse them at any time. That's not true. You're using them during the developmental cycle of a child.
Yes.
During the developmental cycle of a child, it determines like what their penis size is going to be.
So
like some of these
sad.
kids that they do it to, and then they try to have gender transition surgery, they don't have a penis that they can turn into a vagina, so they start using their rectal tissue. So then their artificial vagina smells like shit, literally, because it's made out of rectal tissue. And so there's all these online forums of people talking about the malodorous fake vaginas that they got from these operations. And then you have to keep
It's
it
a
dilated.
wound. It's basically a
It's a
wound that
wound.
you got to put in, and at some point that wound's gonna not start smelling good because it's not meant to be there.
Well, I mean, maybe you could, if it was made out of a dick, maybe you can keep it from smelling like anything other than dick. But it's going to smell like dick. It's made out of dick.
Yeah, right.
But like, it's like
Damn, your
earrings.
pussy smell like dick.
Like if you have a pierced ear, sometimes those holes seal up, right? So you have to keep a peg in there. You have to keep an earring in there
Yeah.
in order to keep the hole open.
Right.
Otherwise, it'll close up, and you have to reopen it. They have to do that with their fake vaginas. They'll heal up.
I just don't understand as a parent how you can't go, no, we're not going to do this. I don't understand why you would allow the thing that is the most beautiful thing in the world, your child, to go through that. I don't understand that, because my whole thing is protect my children at all costs. As much as I can, I protect them from as much as I can. And to allow this to happen at that age, be like, yeah, just do a major surgery at 5. I mean, how early is it? 10, 12,
13, whatever.
Like,
Crazy.
what kind of parent is that?
And it's a decision that's going to haunt them for the rest of their life if they don't agree with it. If they're unhappy with it, and there's a lot of detransitioners, a lot. And they get shamed.
shunned.
Oh, my God. They get attacked so hard. It's so crazy. Imagine someone that's been coerced into doing something horrible, they'll never have children again, ruin their life. They get older and they realize, like, oh, I'm just a gay man. Now I don't have a dick. Or, oh, I'm just a girl who had autism and was confused. Now my breasts are removed and I have a deep voice. Forever. And
It's so tragic.
can't have children forever. Your life is ruined in the name of woke, and not just that, but also in the name of money. This is where it gets fucked. Because when you look at the amount of money that's generated by this, like if you go back to like gender transition surgery places, like gender affirming care centers in like 2007. There's a couple. There's a few.
Yeah.
Because there's always been transgender people. There's always been people that have gender dysphoria. And then there's people that have autogynephilia. And the autogynephilia people are the people that are sexually aroused by the idea of dressing up like a woman, but they like women. And those are the fucking creeps that walk around women's bathrooms with
that was that
hard-ons.
swimmer. They said that they had that.
I'm sure. There's been a bunch of them like that. They get aroused by the idea of dressing up like a woman, but they're heterosexual. And so they're protected under the same banner. So you've empowered perverts and molesters to go into women's room and stare at women while they're peeing with their dicks out.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's crazy. They get a kink out of walking around women's locker rooms with their hard-ons. And this is, or their dicks out. But this is just one aspect of it. And then there's people that really do have a mind of a woman. They're trapped in a man's body. And maybe gender transition is the thing for them. But they should be like protected from making a poor decision while they're young.
Yes. At 18, light yourself up like a Christmas tree.
It really shouldn't even be 18.
Or
man.
21, 24,
whatever,
25.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
whatever age we figure out.
Yeah.
But people make, especially men, their frontal cortex in a man doesn't even really fully evolve until they're like 25 years old.
I think mine was 50.
I think mine was 52.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's interesting because it's this thing we kind of see in society right now in our culture where they're trying to make outlaw shit mainstream. Like when I was growing up, there was always that story that there was a city in Colorado where everyone went to get transitioned, and you went out there and that's where you did it. You didn't see it like centers everywhere. Yeah, for a long time, Colorado was the place where I always heard you went to go get your dick cut off and stuff like that, right? Which is fine. Again, live your life. When I was growing up in a small town, I don't think we had any trans. I think we had maybe one, and they lived their life. And they lived that outlaw lifestyle. Same thing with adult film stars, right? Like when I was I did the Naughty Show. I interviewed all these adult film stars. That was way before OnlyFans, and now like your secretary is an OnlyFans, and they don't understand the lifestyle that comes with being an outlaw, right? Which is like there's a reason why porn stars live, like the average age is like 38 years old, their lifespan, right? There's like...
Is that real?
If you go and you... there's people on YouTube that put together like these in memoriam adult film stars. They're all super young and it's all like ODing, suicide, murder. It's not an easy lifestyle. There's certain people that are built for that, and it comes from trauma as a childhood that, they
Also,
can't
just
really...
imagine the people that you're associating with every day, the men who are pimping you out
Yeah.
through these movies.
It's an outlaw lifestyle. It's same thing with the trans stuff. They're trying to make it so the normies are doing it. And it's like they're not built for that. There's a certain kind of person built for that certain lifestyle.
That business got wiped out by the internet. Remember how there was all these like bailouts of businesses? Isn't it funny that no one bailed out porn?
Yeah, it's so crazy, dude.
It's so crazy, dude. I used to live in this gated community, real nice neighborhood, and there was a dude who lived down the street who actually did jujitsu with me, and he was a porn star.
I know.
and
I think I know what you're talking about.
And he made porn films, and so he was loaded. This dude had a fucking fat Mercedes and a beautiful house, and his house is apparently like just a playground, like this. He was just balling out of control and producing porn. And then the internet came along and bang. House, he got repossessed, lost everything. Everybody went broke. They went from making millions every year to making $0.
Yes.
Because all the porn was legal and it was all online.
And it's tubes, and you go into why is that a thing? Why is this porn all free? Why is that suggestion bar over there suggesting some weird shit to me? Like it just brings you deeper and deeper
Not
into
only
the
that, you keep clicking on links, and links put up ads, and they're so banging out ad revenue left and right. And
they were getting some straight, like normal ads too, like a Ford truck I once saw on Pornhub, which was like a really weird commercial before you're about to watch interracial gangbangs, right? It's
I bet all that's done in a sneaky way. I bet all that's probably done in a sneaky way. I bet the companies don't even know what they're advertising for. I bet it's like a block of ad that goes to like some conglomerate. And I mean, you got to think of how much money must be involved in those streaming sites now.
And how many views they're getting. If you go to a video, it's got 3 million views. Why is that any different than watching a stand-up special that has 3 million views?
Because you're not paying attention to the fucking ads on the right-hand side because you're going full screen every time.
Yeah, it's really crazy. But the game changed, and I always think this is like kind of
here it is right here. In 2006, pornography industry generated $12 billion in annual revenue, which is more than the combined annual revenues of ABC, NBC, and CBS. In 2023, the pornographic website market in the U.S. is projected to be valued at $1 billion. So they lost $11 billion. That's with
crazy.
all the rebounding. That's the rebounding, right? So there was a complete devastation from 2006, which is right about the time that this fucking dude lost his house. I think he lost his house like 2008 or something like that. So they just, once the U-porn and all that shit came along, it just took the fucking legs off of it.
But the 2023 one doesn't include the OnlyFans numbers.
Oh, yeah, that's got to be off the charts.
Yeah, that is
That's off the
crazy
charts.
too, and that's an interesting
But here's the thing. That is the most empowering way for porn stars, right? Because they are
They get rid of the pimp.
They get rid of the pimp. They get rid of the producers. They make their own revenue. And a lot of it is like boyfriends and girlfriends decide to film, like fucking amateur stuff. And people love that stuff. And that is like an insane amount of money. And they're making it. They're making all of it, which that's the most
Some of
reasonable.
them are. I think there's this big thing where they're like, this chick made $1 million. And then you study like what the average person makes. It's like $100. I saw this great meme where it's like you started OnlyFans, you made $10, but now everybody in your town knows you have pepperoni nipples.
Yeah, there's definitely that. It's not always successful. That's for sure. The median income for OnlyFans creators is $4,995 a year, according to Keeper, tax filing service for the freelance workers. However, it is likely some creators make a lot of money while others make none at all. So for the median to be $499, that means some girls are making $20.
Yep.
Yeah, some girls are making $20. So what was my point? My point was
The point is, it used to be an organized kind of like a real industry, and now it's not that, and it's Wild West, and everybody's doing these. You know what's really weird, dude, is how similar comedians and porn stars' business models are. They're almost exactly the same if you study it, right? It's like we have podcasts, they have OnlyFans, right?
they put clips up on Twitter.
Yeah.
Which is wild. That Twitter during all the censorship, still full on hardcore porn always on Twitter, which is really crazy that nobody pushed back against that. That never went away.
And now and snuff films. It's so crazy to me.
That's a lot of Instagram. Instagram is a lot of murder. I watched a guy today get stomped to death. That same video, the guy got stomped to death by the elephant. I had to watch it again. Like, what the fuck, man?
Dude, it is crazy. My algorithm on Instagram, I hate it, dude. I hate it. It's all buttholes, dude.
So many people dying.
I can't get away from it.
Red Band got me turned on to ladies who find the loophole to show their tits by breastfeeding fake babies. So they have this big juicy tit, and they pull this hot girl in a sundress, pulls out this big juicy tit, and sticks it in the mouth of a rubber baby, and you're like, hey.
I was at the airport flying here, and like I love children. Like especially now I have kids, I realize how magical they are. And like you go to airports, you don't see kids like you used to when I was coming up. It's just nobody's having kids anymore. At least that's what they're telling us. But so I'm.
That's why we need immigrants, Sam. That's why we need to keep the borders open, Sam.
I see that, dude. Even like
we need to give them money, Sam.
Even Mexico's birth rate's going down. It's like Mexicans are having kids now, dude. That's crazy.
Is that real?
Yeah, like, dude, I saw this chart which stated like the birth rates of all these countries. It is not the only place that's only down 20%. Jamaica, they're still dropping dick. Nobody else
probably
is.
Don't have a lot of plastic over there. The part of it is reproductive cycles are being devastated by plastic.
Dude, we're entering our children of men phase, dude. I'm telling you, bro. We're like
maybe
where nobody.
Remember that
has
movie?
kids.
It was like ridiculous. Everybody's like, "That's crazy."
Yeah, now like everything's militarized and nobody's having kids. Welcome.
I mean, it's going to get to a point where abortion rights are going to be moot. Like, it's not really important because nobody can have kids.
Yeah, it's really sad, dude.
It's weird because this is what happens in industrialized civilizations anyway. So whenever you have like cities, what happens is women enter the workforce, so they have children later. And then men want to have children later as well because everybody's focusing on the career. And then you have IVF centers and everything because people are too old to have kids. They're late 30s, like, oh my God, we have to do something to have a kid. We don't have any time. Freeze the embryos, do whatever we got to do. And so it's normal for third world countries to have more kids. You know, that's always been the case because you need children to help you work. You know, if you're working on a farm or a ranch or you need kids. And then you get to cities and people are like, well, the wife wants a career as well. And birth rates always drop. But you get to places like Japan or South Korea.
It's crazy.
They're catastrophic.
Everyone's watching eel porn. Nobody wants to hook up with the bitches, dog.
Well, it's not even that, man. It's work. It's work, especially in South Korea. They're very hardworking. It's a very hard work ethic. And the population drop is so bad that it's something crazy. Like 1 out of 100 people today will have grandchildren. Something bananas
that is
like that.
So nuts to me. And it, what else is kind of crazy? Like the what feminism has done. And I think we're in big trouble. Our gene pool's in big trouble. Like, especially if you take a look at like how many, there's like so many OnlyFans. It's unbelievable, right? And that lifestyle, when you're a gorgeous woman like that lifestyle that you start to go into OnlyFans, that kind of like shuts certain doors in your life. And one thing that is going to happen is like high value males probably don't want an adult film star as the mother of their children.
Right.
And these are like Viking bitches, right? Like, these big old juicy titties and all that stuff. They should be putting out super soldier kids.
Right.
But because these high value males don't want that, that's going to fuck that gene pool up. And then you look at college and you have these really smart, or I'll say intelligent women don't want to have kids. So now you got the smart ones not having kids and the super built ones not having kids. It's going to be like super devastating to the gene pool. It's going to get really weird, man. I think we lived through the best times, and I know every generation says that about the next generation, but I think we had it great.
Well, isn't like OnlyFans almost kind of like hitting the lottery plus shame? Right? It's like you got money that's coming out of nowhere, so you're going to burn through it, likely. You're probably not going to be the best business person. Maybe you are. Maybe you're investing it. Maybe you know how to change your identity.
I'd like to be a financial consultant to the strippers. Like, I always wanted to do that, like help them invest their stripper money. Put a call on this, put a put on
that. They must
that.
all have OnlyFans, right?
Oh, dude, they said like 30% of Miami is OnlyFans.
What?
Yeah, it's like some crazy number.
Google that. What were you saying, Jamie?
I've seen OnlyFans creators say that like if some of the strippers only had enough self-confidence to know that they could just be on OnlyFans instead of going to the strip club.
Perhaps.
So maybe this.
Google what Sam said about OnlyFans in Miami.
That's like some crazy high number.
That seems bonkers. 30% is a little high.
I mean, but everybody's hot in Miami. I went to Dunkin' Donuts. I saw a chick working there. I was ready to leave everyone I love for, dude. I was ready I will abandon everybody for those.
I always say you should have a passport to go to Miami. That is not America.
That is not America.
A wild country.
It's the Latino San Diego, and then San Diego is the white Miami. That's how it goes, dude. You go to Miami, you're like, you go to San Diego, you're like, you're so gorgeous, and you're happy. What is going on here, dude?
Right, because they're not in the showbiz industry.
100%.
That's what it is. That's like Texas ladies.
Yeah.
There's beautiful women out here, and they don't need any attention.
I love Texas.
They're not trying to get famous.
They're
just being normal people that want a family.
They're just normal people.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the main things that was appealing to me when I first started looking at Austin. When I would come here, I'm like, these people are so normal. They're nice. They're just nice people. They're ideal.
They're just living their life.
You get so used to that Hollywood warrior.
I hate
that
it.
Hollywood weird world, that way of behaving and thinking. It's all wrapped around narcissists. It's all wrapped around the entertainment business, and it's all wrapped around these people that dictate whether or not you work. These overseers of the industry.
I get asked to audition for stuff all the time. I'm like, I'm done. I'm tired of going in there auditioning for someone who probably couldn't do the role anyway, so I'm trying to impress them, and I can't act. I'm a horrible actor. I'm functionally illiterate. I can't write. I can only do one thing. It's talk mad shit, and that's it. I'm lucky to have a career doing that.
That's a thing.
Thank God.
Thank God
at the right time, I just started podcasting with you in
a tire shop. Oh my God, we'd be fucking doomed. We would just be making each other laugh, and we'd be constantly getting fired.
I love 6th Street energy. I love going there and just feeling the energy.
Yeah.
It reminds me, dude, of like, you remember Hollywood Sunset Boulevard in like 98? Mm-hmm. When like Kobe and Shaq were crushing it with the Lakers, and it was just chaos. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know how good we had it, and it was so much fun. And now that's all gone.
Well, also, we were undercover. right? Because even though I was on TV, nobody knew who the fuck I was in '98. It
Yeah.
was like we were just kids. We were just young guys, like in this wild business, and we couldn't believe we were working in Hollywood. We were working at the Comedy Store, you know. And then all these celebrities come by. You see Quentin Tarantino there and Dr. Dre there. You're like, what the fuck? This is crazy. Couldn't even believe it was real. Dice Clay's there. Like, what?
My favorite, listen, there's 2 times at the Comedy Store that I loved. Obviously, when you came back and it was just fire and it was like every show was selling out instantly. But there was also that dead period at the store where it was like we could just go up and bomb with dignity and nobody cared. There was nobody in the OR. You were just eating a dick and you felt great about yourself because it was like towards the end of Mitzi's, like, she was still in control, but she wasn't like
That was
hands-on.
2007 to 14.
Yeah, it was just,
Yeah,
it
that's
was,
when I was gone.
Yeah, no, it was right
Oh,
before you
before.
left too. You were the I loved you. You were the only one putting your name on the marquee still. And you know, you'd have these guys popping in doing an hour. Their name weren't on the marquee. It was chaos, man.
But the reason why they did that is because they had this erroneous idea that you wouldn't sell tickets in LA if your name was at the Comedy Store. People knew they could see you at the Comedy Store. Why would they go see you at the Forum?
Yeah,
And I was always like, well,
That's
who
stupid,
says
man.
who?
Yeah.
Says who?
Yeah.
Says who?
so I always appreciate you putting your name on a marquee because we got to perform in front of like packed crowds. But during the week, I remember I'd walk up. Steve Renazizi's still working at the cash register, and he's like, "Should I get a new job?" You'd look in. There's like 10 people in the OR.
That was like 94 to like 2003.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
got in 98, and it was
Yeah.
I always said it's the purest comedy ever was because the inmates were running the asylum.
Oh, yeah.
and you could just be you could go do a set, do blow over there, have a
Yeah.
great time, live your life, and it was such a blessing because everybody that was there during that time has gone on to do amazing things. They're all over Netflix, their podcasts are huge because we were allowed to just bomb with dignity. Mitzi,
Well, you're allowed to experiment.
yes.
Right, which is so important for creating comedy. You got to take chances and you got to try things. And if you're just trying to kill all the time, you're going to do your best material always. And the store kind of got to be that
Yes.
for a while. Like 2000.
Before COVID.
Yeah, 14 on, the problem was it was packed every night. When I came back, all of a sudden it was like the new gold rush. And it was every night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 2 shows, 3 shows, sold out. Everything was sold out.
2
Parking lots
shows in the
crowd.
main room, sold
Yeah,
out.
amazing crowds, enthusiastic comedy fans. It was because they were internet comedy fans. It became like a different thing because it was before. It was like, let's go see comedy. They didn't give a fuck about comedy. So if you got a laugh, you earned that fucking laugh.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
The way I always say is the store goes through these different eras, right? So it went through the Richard Pryor era. When Richard Pryor was filming Live in the Sunset Strip in like the early 80s, I mean, this was like the thing. Like you'd go see Richard Pryor at the Comedy Store. And I'm sure the Comedy Store, from everybody that like Dom Herrera and people I talked to, was hopping back then. And then there was the Kinnison era. And then Kinnison, I think around 88, got banned from the store. And something happened, and I don't know what he did. He probably shot somebody or something. I know he shot one of the signs
Oh yeah.
in the back in the
yeah,
parking
they
lot.
replaced sign. Like so
Yeah.
sad. It's like,
Why'd
dude,
you
that was a
replace
bullet
it?
hole from Kinnison.
Why would you
Leave
fix
it there?
that? Leave it there. So then after that, there was this giant drop off. That's when I came along. I came along in 94. There was no one there. It was like I had heard about the Comedy Store was Mecca. When I lived in Boston, everybody was like, the Comedy Store.
Yes.
Richard Pryor,
Yes.
Sam Kinison, Dave Letterman,
Yep.
Bill Hicks, Comedy Store, the Comedy Store. You're like, you was like this magnet you had to get to. I got to get to the Comedy Store. And then when I got there, I was like, what? It was like Bodaks. It was like the leftovers, the people that were around in the 70s and the 80s, but never, they were lazy, they were fucked up, they never got their shit together, and they had these terrible acts. And I remember being there, and the crowd was like non-existent. No one was there. I was like, wow, this is the Comedy Store? And it was like that
For a couple years.
for many years. Well, you came in 98. It was like that in 98. So it was 94 till around the internet. And then the internet started getting the Comedy Store packed again because we were all on like not OnlyFans, MySpace.
Yeah.
We were all advertising shows on MySpace, and that got Dane Cook led that, right?
Dane Cook changed the game, I always say.
That was like 2002-ish, somewhere around then, 2002, 3. That's when it really fucking kicked in. And then Fear Factor was huge. So then my name was on the marquee
remember
back
that.
then. So then it was packed again. And then it was internet fans. So it was a totally different vibe. It was like a really fucking good time. But then 2007, I left, and I'm like, fuck this place, and then it dropped off again.
It dropped off again. And I remember when you came back, like I remember I wasn't in town. It was a big event, and everyone's so excited, and the things just changed, and it just became just fire
Overnight.
there overnight.
Overnight.
But I always could tell whether you or Joey Diaz was on the lineup, because when you weren't on the lineup, the crowds were totally different. And I'm like, oh, Tripoli's going to have to work tonight, dude. It's going to be a rough one. We're going to war. We're going to lose some soldiers tonight.
Well, you know, if you threw Joey up on the show, first of all, whoever goes on after Joey's in real trouble. But also, like,
you learn a lot about yourself.
oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
an education.
Oh yeah. Especially Joey in the OR. Joey in the OR was almost impossible to follow. And then on top of that, like, all the taboos have been destroyed.
Yes.
He just did 15 minutes on eating ass and shoving his nose in someone's ass, doing the pigeon. And destroyed the room. Like, people couldn't breathe. They were laughing so hard they couldn't breathe. People were knocking drinks over the table, falling onto the ground. It was normal to see people fall on the ground when Joey was on stage. So, but the thing is, it's like all the taboos were shattered, and you could just have fun. You know, you could just do anything. You could just have a good time.
I felt like that at your club last night.
Oh yeah.
I felt like that. Like,
Yeah.
It was so funny because I came out and I did Kill Tony 2 weeks ago, and you know, I took Tony on his first road gig. You can actually watch. There's a video on YouTube where I used to do something called Before and After, and I would interview, like, I'd take door guys on the road. I'd interview them before the show, and then I would interview them after the show because I know it was going to be chaos.
Right.
And you can see Tony's first gig he ever did on the road is on the internet.
Wow.
And now, you know, and I did like Kill Tony super early. So, you know, that's kind of how I thought the show was, how it was when it first started. So I call up Red Band, I hit up Red Band and tell him, like, hey man, my special's drop, can I come and do the show? He's like, yeah, come on. So I'd be telling people, I'm like, hey dude, I'm doing Kill Tony. People, it's like I'm having a kid. Like, I'm giving, like, I'm going to have a new child come into the world. People are like, I'm so happy for you. You deserve it. You're doing great. I'm like, I didn't realize what I was walking into.
Bro, when you should have come to Madison Square Garden. When you see,
I don't know why I didn't go. I was like,
Dude.
Dana's like, why didn't you go? I go,
Kill
we
Tony.
could have done that. We could have gone. I didn't even think
you
about
could
it.
have done a set.
Yeah, I wish I could have
Kill
gone.
Tony in Madison Square Garden was so insane. So for me, it was so emotional. Like, I had to be there because I was there when he was doing it in front of 18 comics in the belly room.
Yes,
there
I was
no
there
audience.
too.
No audience.
Yeah.
I was a frequent guest, and it was just fun. It was just a thing we would do. We'd fuck around, and I thought it was a great workshop for comedy. And I thought it was a great way for these amateurs, these people that were doing 1 minute, to just kind of get feedback from guys like Dom Herrera and to, like, kind of figure out how to do comedy.
Yes.
It's like it's a little bit of a training wheel for doing comedy. Also, tremendous pressure, even back then. But imagine, like, someone went up at Madison Square Garden. It was their first time on stage.
Where do you go from there?
You don't. The bombing was horrendous. But 16,000 people and rabid Kill Tony fans in front of this amazing band now. And you got Dice Clay's there, Shane Gillis is there, Mark Norman. I mean, it's fucking
all my favorites.
Bananas. It was bananas. Dave Attell.
I wish I would.
It was incredible.
I didn't even think to go. I was like, man, why didn't I go? All my friends were there. I saw Ari.
I wish I talked to you about it. Yeah,
I
you
would-
should have went. It
I
was
would
it was
love to.
fucking amazing.
But I'm there, right? I'm there. And I do Kill Tony, and, like, I just feel this freedom I haven't felt in a long time.
Yeah.
There's a shadow in the cave in Hollywood of cancel culture, and people are just afraid. I mean, they're just afraid. And
Well, they're also afraid of not getting gigs. So the problem with LA is that even the comics that were really good at one point in time, they started getting TV gigs.
Yes.
And then they backed off. They backed off what they did. And I felt that. When I was on news radio, my fucking producer said this to me. He goes, "Why are you still doing comedy? You're an actor now." I was like, "Oh no!" My immediate thought was like, "Oh no! Like, I could get stuck here doing this."
Yeah.
I was just doing this for money. I was doing this because I couldn't believe someone would pay me $25,000 a week. I was like, what are you talking about? That's insanity.
That
I was
is
like, oh
insane.
my God, I'm a baller. I couldn't. It's 1994. I was
Young
like, this
Joe,
is crazy.
Young Joe.
I'm 26 years old and I'm making this insane amount of money. Like, this is nuts. And so I went from that to this realization that this could be a trap. And I was like, oh no, I'm doubling down. I'm going to get after it. I'm going to really, really get after it with comedy. I'm going to do the same kind of comedy. And I've thought about that during the Fear Factor days too. And I'm like, if I lose Fear Factor because of comedy, so be it. But I am not.
Dude, that's why I love you. You're such a wordsmith. You love the art. I've always felt that from you. You've always loved the art, and I've always totally respected that in you because you could have slide, and I know you fucking, you take a notepad and you write and you work those bits and you listen to yourself and you always like fine tune it. And that's why when you're special and you did live, which is fucking bananas, I loved it, dude. I was so happy for you because I know how much time you put into it.
Well, it's also doing it live is like scary.
It's crazy,
Which is
dude.
why I wanted to do it live. I was like, fuck it. Let's do it live.
It was great, dude.
Let's do it like fucking Bill
was
O'Reilly.
fun. People
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Bro, it's so nuts because most people don't know this about specials is most people record multiple shows so they could edit it together so they get the best representation.
Yeah.
To go up there and like last night I did the smaller room in your club and there was a couple moments where I flubbed some words and I was like, don't crash the plane. Don't crash the plane. stay in the pocket, dude. You just flubbed a couple words. It's okay. And then you write it and then you go.
Yeah.
Like to do it live is crazy.
But you know what it made me realize? That I could do more in regular comedy. Like I could work more. I could work harder. You know, you remember the movie Mo Better Blues?
Yeah.
I love that movie. One of the things I loved about that movie was like the discipline that Denzel Washington's character had. Like his girlfriend's trying to fuck. He's like, no, I got to practice. I'm like, I don't even practice. I was thinking that, like, I hardly practice. I hardly
think
write.
about that all the time.
I write occasionally. I would write, back then especially. I write a lot more now, but I would write occasionally. I sit down and write. When I got ready for the special, I was writing every day. And I was going over my bits every day. I was listening to them. I was writing them down. I was writing them out the day of the show. I had done them thousands of times, but I was writing them out the day of the show. I was listening to recordings. I watched a film of the recording. I was like, I am going to be dialed the fuck in. And then when I did it, I was like, why don't I do this all the time? Like, if I did that all the time, everything would be so much better.
How do you have time, bro? How do you keep all this stuff going? I know I got in yesterday and I wanted to text you, but I'm like, oh, dude, he's so busy. I'm just going to let him do his thing. My phone's constantly blowing up and I'm not even close to what. I don't know how you keep everything going and not like, it's amazing to me because I'm constantly like on the verge of like, I'm just going to fake my own death and disappear.
Well, one day I'll probably disappear. But what I'm doing is exactly the amount I can do. So I have it in a good situation, right? So my situation is I work out in the morning while my kids are at school. I come here, I do the podcast, and then I do stand-up at night when everybody's going to bed. And that's what I did in L.A. too. Like a lot of those shows that I did, like Joe Rogan and Friends show I did in the main room, I did them at 10 o'clock. And the reason I did it at 10 o'clock is my kids are already in bed.
Yep.
So it's perfect. I have dinner, hang out with the family, go, and then I write late at night because that's when I'm the most juicy. When I come home from a show and my brain's fired up, and I can sit in front of that computer and maybe I said one thing that I think could be something, and then I'll just listen to that thing, and then I'll just start writing. And I've gotten so much out of that, and it made me angry that I didn't do it more often. Because like some of the best bits that I've come up with over the last couple of years have all been stuff that I actually wrote. Not just ideas that came to me that I fleshed out on stage. And I've had some of those that became bangers. But the sitting down and writing things out and trying to get my perspective, and some lines that were just... We lost a lot of people during COVID, and most of them are still alive.
I love that.
I wrote that. I was like, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
We lost those people. But that came out of writing. A lot of these things that I was writing out, like that, I took chunks of them, and that became the bits. And I was like, God damn it, I got to be more focused. So doing that live special really lit a fire under my ass.
So insane, dude. People have no clue how that hard that is. And anyone who's ever shot a special has to be like, that's insanity, dude, to do that, because most people don't have the ability to do that. And I respect you, and I've always done that because you do have the discipline. And, you know, now that I've gotten sober, like, that's what I work on is discipline. You know, the getting into a routine of go and work out, get this done. And now, I'm going to be honest with you, I always was a stage writer. I mostly just wrote on stage, tagged it, and could remember it and get the beats down in my head. But now that, like, in November, I'll be doing stand-up for 30 years. Most people are retiring from whatever they're doing at that time. I still absolutely love stand-up comedy. But now I've kind of talked about all the things. I really used to get downloads, dude. Like, I would get downloads of jokes. Jokes would come to me fully formed, and I would just go on stage and do them. Like, I remember one day I'm sleeping, I just wake up, I'm like, oh, the 7 stages of grief of shitting your pants, right? I just had the joke like right there, and it's like this, I did on my special, and it's a great bit, you know? But now I've kind of tapped into everything. And I heard Doug Stanhope talk about this one time.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I talked about everything I cared about.
Yeah, but you know what Doug told me? Edibles changed all that for him.
I don't know,
and I'm
bro.
like, yeah, dude, that's the steroids of comedy.
I'm thinking about, I would love, I mean, December 9th will be 4 years. I'm so thankful for my sobriety.
Stay sober.
I do want to microdose during jiu-jitsu, but that's about it. That's the one thing.
Listen, you don't have to. You don't have to do drugs. You can.
No, I don't want to.
You can stay on this path and be incredibly creative without drugs. It's just some people drugs are not good for. Just like some people shouldn't eat peanuts.
Well, it's like it's just the point is like now I'm sitting down and writing, and I'm like sitting down and I'll write. My goal is at night to do like 30 minutes of stretching, 30 minutes of writing, and then 30 minutes of reading. You know,
that's 30 more minutes than you would have done if you didn't.
Yeah.
You add that up, that's fucking hours in a week. And you add that up to jokes, you're going to have 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there.
If you can get one good bit a week, that's about 5 minutes. By the end of the year, you're going to be, or like 5 good minutes a month. You just got to get 5 good minutes a month.
5 good minutes a month's amazing. And then you have a whole hour at the end of the year.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And then if you do that for 2 years, you can pull from 120 minutes down to a murder 60.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working on now. But like,
think about that. If you have 5 good minutes a month, you have 12 months out of the year. You know, you're going to have 50 fucking minutes. Maybe, you know, when you trim it down, maybe a little less. But that's pretty fucking good. That's pretty goddamn good.
And I'm trying right now to really work on, like, taking my experiences and turning them into jokes. Instead of just doing observations, which is fine. But I'm trying to take experiences that I feel to make it as authentic as I can.
Sure.
To who I am. And you know, sometimes I could wander into some stuff where I'm like, I'm sure somebody already said that, but I'm just like, you know what? It's authentic to me. Like, I have this bit about I almost OD'd on like a gas station boner pill one time. This is like a true story.
Did you get it from Red Band?
No, I was at just one day. I don't know why. I was at a gas station. I saw the Rhino 55,000. I'm like, give it to me. And I was up for 3 days straight, rock hard. And I'm like, I'm gonna die.
What is in those fucking things?
I don't know, bro.
I think there's steroids in those things.
I was up, dude, and I had jiu-jitsu in the morning. I'm like, this is not good.
Probably meth.
But I'm probably like, I'm sure somebody might have talked about this, but I don't care because this is my experience.
Yeah.
And I am just going to write about my experience.
I'm sure people, Red Band's talked about gas station boner pills
Forever.
He was the guinea pig. He would get the different ones. He'd be mad when the gas station ran out of them. And he was telling me the scam, how what would happen is they would test these things. They'd find out there's Viagra in them and a bunch of other shit. And so then they'd pull them off the market. And then they would just come up with a new company name and then sell the same shit.
Thank God.
And it was like, instead of Rhino, it was Steel Rhino and Iron Rhino and Golden Rhino.
But they're so powerful,
but
bro.
How crazy is that was a thing for a long time, was gas station boner pills.
They're still there, dude.
I never touched them.
I did.
I thought about it. There was a couple of times.
I loved it.
You know?
But I like the throttle, dude.
I was in a weak state of mind. And I saw that stack there while I was buying a pack of gum. Like, huh. Nope, I'm not going to do it. You know what I was scared? I was scared I'd love it. And I'd want to do them all the time. Because you really were taking a risk. You didn't know what was in those.
Yes.
Let's find this out. How many people died from gas station boner pills? Because it's not zero. It's not zero. There has to be some guys that died.
That has to suck.
That has to suck.
That has to be along right up there with the guy who died in Mr. Hands. Like, imagine going to that
right.
funeral, dude.
That guy got fucked more than 100 times before that one horse killed him. Isn't that crazy?
It's eventually going to catch up with you.
In the video of Mr. Hands, that's not even the one he died. He died in a different video.
What?
That video was successful.
That was the good time?
That was a good time. Let the good times roll. Yeah, when that horse nuts in his ass. And you look at that thing going up into his body cavity, and you're like, how?
Where does
it going?
go?
That's in his throat. That dick was my arm. Probably longer than my arm. That was a giant dick. But apparently, dudes are fisting, and they're really getting up in there. That's another Instagram rabbit hole I went down.
What?
How many guys died?
Hold on.
They get
On
up in there.
Instagram?
Yeah.
They're showing that?
No, they're talking about it.
Oh, okay.
Guys are talking about
Okay, dude.
how far they get in there and how they couldn't believe it, until they met the right queen. They could really get in there. How many people have died from gas station boner pills? Let's guess. I'm going to say 1,200.
Really?
Yeah, 1,200 deaths, gas station boner pills, all time.
I'm gonna bid $1 only because I think that people are like, let's not tell them they died from a boner pill. So who's actually
Probably Viagra, probably Pfizer.
Pfizer's
They're
like,
probably
don't take that, take our shit.
Yeah, which is probably actually the smart thing to do.
I'm gonna go
Like, if you want a
26
boner-
people.
26.
26. Did we find out, Jamie?
Jamie, what we got?
The information I'm getting is going to be tough to get to because you'd probably die from a heart attack, so they're not going to say it was the gas station boner pill that killed you. I found nothing that's linked anybody to death. Not that that's not true, but
That's
also,
like COVID vaccines.
What other drugs are you on?
No one.
That's so crazy.
People
dude.
just died.
So
What
crazy.
other drugs are you on if you're taking gas station boner pills enough to kill you? Also,
Right, you might
it's
be a
not
wild
the
boy.
only thing you took. So
You might be a wild boy.
I stumbled across
I'm
something.
a wild boy.
They call it gas station heroin. Have you heard of that?
Well, I've
That's
heard,
what they call boner
No,
pills?
no. There's another drug that they're warning you to stay off of they call it gas station heroin.
It's a
I've
new
never
one?
even heard of it. But
So
yeah,
is that like bath salts? Remember
there's a
the
list
bath
of-
salts thing?
Oh, yeah.
It could be like that, but I don't know. I've never even heard of this. I don't know what it looks like.
John McAfee, the guy who invented antivirus software.
Oh, yeah, he was a wild
He
one.
was cooking up his own meth. Allegedly, I say this with all due respect. Rest in peace.
Rest
He was
in
a guest
peace.
on the podcast one day, by the way.
Great.
When he was running from the law, he was
yeah.
a guest on the podcast. He called in. It was a fascinating conversation. But John McAfee allegedly had a lab in his backyard, like a very sophisticated lab because he's a genius, and had an online forum that he was posting at detailing how he was making all this with photographs and showed the lab and everything. And then later, I think they caught him that it was actually him, and he was saying, "Don't you understand parody? This is a joke. I don't do meth. Come on, guys." But he seemed like he was doing meth.
Dude, he wifed up a hooker. God bless him.
He what?
He
Wifed up a hooker.
Yeah.
It's this stuff. I've never heard of this.
Product
Never seen
recall announcement. Neptune Resources.
It. Yep.
Elixir.
FDA warning. Don't take it.
Okay, what is in it?
I don't know. It's this the drug called tianepatine.
Huh.
That's the one I was telling you was a gas station.
Tianepatine.
Never heard of it. It was in
Well-
a list with kratom and gas station boner pills. To
Let's
not take.
let's find out whatever that kratom stuff is fucking sketchy.
Yeah, it's like that pink cocaine where they're just like, it's just literally an everything bagel of drugs.
Antidepressant.
Oh, an antidepressant. Interesting. Sold under the brand names Stablon, Tatinol, and Coaxil, among others. Atypical tricyclic antidepressant, which uses mainly in the treatment of major depressive disorder, although it may be used to treat anxiety, asthma, and irritable bowel syndrome. Oh, you're farting a lot? Have some heroin. Have some fucking gas station heroin. So this stuff, it's an opioid agonist with opioid agonist effects.
What does that mean? For the elderly?
4 to 9 hours. Jesus Louises. So people are just drinking this stuff in gas station heroin. Here are 8 things to know. God, this is a new thing. They have pills too? Described before it became available as gas station heroin, tianeptine was prescribed to treat depression in dozens of countries. Now, U.S. poison control centers are reporting a dramatic spike in cases involving it, a drug that isn't FDA approved and one that authorities warn possesses overdose and dependency risk. Well, that kratom stuff definitely has overdose and dependency issues. I have a buddy of mine who's in treatment. He's in recovery, and he was taking kratom. And they were actually, they had this one company, and it's in pills, and he gives me some. So what does it do? It was years ago. It's great. It's great for pain relief, and when you have it in low doses, it actually acts as a stimulant, and in higher doses, it does different things. And so I tried. I was like, wow, this stuff's weird. This is interesting.
What was the high?
It's a weird high. It's interesting.
Go fast, go slow?
It's not much. It's like a little pick-me-up for like a couple of pills. And so then I go, he tells me he takes it before he works out. I go, how many do you take? He's like, I take 10.
What?
I go, you take 10? I go, okay, what's that like? Oh, I'll try 10. So I take 10.
What?
I was high as a kite. I was like, you are not in recovery. You are high. This isn't coffee. Because 2 was like a mild stimulant. I was like, oh, this is interesting. 10 was like, but it was interesting because I didn't lose any motor control function. So I worked out when I took the 10, and I went and hit the bag. I was like, that way I'll know, like if my motor function is off. Not at all. Nothing was off. So hand-eye coordination was perfect. Everything was the same. No, it wasn't drunk. It wasn't high where you're like, oh man, I'm fucking high. It was like, what is this? Some completely different pathway, but didn't affect my motor skills, which I thought was really interesting. Because, like, I worked out, but I was like, I am high as a kite. And I called him. I'm like, bro, you are not in recovery. I'm like, you are high.
That's so weird.
You're so high. This is so, whatever that is, I don't know what the dose was with 10 of these fucking pills. I was really high.
I did with that. I had somebody gave me a 6 Zine. Is that Zin?
Oh, Zin, yeah, they can get
They
you.
gave me a 6. I was drunk driving, dude. I had to pull over, be like, just calm down. Because they thought it'd be funny. I'm like, I don't feel anything. As I'm walking, I'm like, and
that's interesting. You felt like you lost your motor control?
Dude, I would, if everyone in AA didn't do zines or zins, I would say I relapsed. That's how like, all over the place I felt when I took this thing.
That's a big jump to
On
jump
a
right
6?
into a 6.
Yeah.
Bro, Lucy's have 12s, and this is a, what is this one here? This might be an 8. Oh, is it 12? Want 12?
No. I mean, am I going to get really, is it tobacco, just tobacco?
No, it's just nicotine, straight nicotine. But there's a company called Pablo, and they have a 50. Here's a 12. I'm going to pop a 12 now. Let's go.
You're going to pop a 12?
Let's fucking go.
Dude, I'll be throwing up in the corner.
I might get hiccups. I'm not going to throw up. But there's a company called Pablo's that have
Do you
a
have
50.
a 3 or anything?
No,
No,
threes.
you don't
What
have
am I,
no pussy 3s?
I'm not pussy.
No pussy 3s?
I might have 3s. No, these are 3s. These are this is a company called Athletic Nicotine. These are great. This is the perfect amount, in my opinion, to stimulate your mind, like before writing and before you go on stage.
Should I do this
or
right
podcast. You tell me.
No, you tell me.
I'm not scared.
Okay. So if
I'm
I
not
just
scared.
end up drooling by the end of this,
You'll be fine.
You won't hate me?
You'll be fine.
That drug I was looking up,
So-
tianeptine, is also sold as a nootropic, so be very careful with that.
Oh, interesting. Antidepressant,
It works in the same
nootropic.
way. When they were selling it in France, they said they didn't know how it worked antidepressantly because it's not a SSRI.
Ooh.
That's also overdosing it can be very bad. And it's sold as a sodium, so like in tablet form too.
Whoa.
Be careful.
Yeah, that sounds bad. Callan found out that company that Kevin James recommended, you know that company, Trinity Gold? Yeah. Trinity Gold has acetaminophen in it and 2 other pain relievers that are banned. Yeah. Callan made a big video about it because he contacted me. So this is interesting. Kevin James told me about it because Chris Weidman told him about it. Chris Weidman, the UFC fighter, said, I'm using this. It's great. My joints feel great. And it's all natural. It's got
For
ashwagandha
joints,
in
I
it.
need joint stuff.
Yeah. Don't take this stuff. Trinity Gold contains, scroll up so I can read that, hidden drug ingredients. Food and Drug Administration is advising consumers not to purchase or use Trinity Gold, a product promoted and sold for joint and muscle pain. FDA laboratory analysis confirmed that Trinity Gold contains acetaminophen, diclofenac, diclofenac and phenylbutazone. So diclofenac and phenylbutazone are banned, and they're fucking very dangerous. So here it is. Diclofenac is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, may cause decreased use of cardiovascular events increased risk of cardiovascular events such as heart attack and stroke, as well as serious gastrointestinal damage, including bleeding, ulceration, and fatal perforation of the stomach and intestines. The hidden drug ingredients may also interact with other medications and significantly increase the risk of adverse events, particularly when consumers use multiple non-steroidal anti-inflammatory containing products. So phenylbutazone is another non-steroidal anti-inflammatory that was discontinued for human use in the United States due to the risk of serious and life-threatening injuries. The most serious and life-threatening injury associated with phenylbutazone treatment is bone marrow toxicity.
Oh my God.
Which occurs when the body does not produce enough red blood cells, white blood cells, and or platelets. Certain types of bone marrow toxicity are reversible. However, in rare circumstances, it can lead to death. And so,
why would you take this?
So Chris Weidman was under the impression that all the stuff in this was natural. He got it from this other guy, the guy who manufactures it, and he's in business with this guy. So Chris is now doing independent studies on his own to try to send other versions of it to the lab. The guy apparently is saying that he thinks someone sabotaged his product by putting shit in it and then getting it to the FDA and having the FDA test it. But another possibility is that this guy is a piece of shit.
Putting stuff in there that get you
So
results.
Who knows? It'll be resolved. We'll find out. But in the meantime, Kevin James, who was taking it, as soon as Brian texted me, I text Kevin. I go, hey, that stuff you're talking about, look, this is what's in there. He's like, holy shit.
Damn.
And
I feel bad for fighters because that probably happens more than we probably know, where they take a supplement, they've been told it's fine, and then
that does happen, and then they get popped for steroids or for some.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's terrible, especially when Khalil Roundtree, it was DHEA, which isn't even a performance enhancing supplement. It's just a natural supplement, but it's banned. So he got popped for that. And he turned himself in because he found out that the substance was in a supplement that they were giving him, and he was like, "Hey, you fucking idiots, this shit's banned."
That sucks.
So he only got a temporary ban. It was only a couple of months because it was clear that A, it was not going to have a performance enhancing effect, and B, he was very transparent, and in fact, he reported it. But there's a lot of guys who get popped because they'll buy some shit from, GNC and they think it's, it's fucking muscle builder. But meanwhile, there's steroids in those things.
It's crazy. I feel so bad for those guys.
Well, when we were first making Alpha Brain, we were making it, you have, what happens is you have a bunch of ingredients. You have a proprietary blend that is your supplement, whatever you're making. And so all these ingredients in Alpha Brain were shown to enhance cognitive function. And so we combined them. We did a bunch of different versions of it, came up with one double-blind, placebo-controlled, tested at the Boston Center for Memory, finds out it worked. We spent a lot of money to make sure this is legit.
Right.
But the company that was making it makes a bunch of other shit too. And so we started doing third-party testing of our own product, and we're finding vitamins in there and creatine, shit that's not supposed to be in there. That was just in there because they didn't clean the vats.
Yeah.
So they're making steroids in one thing, and then they clean it out, and then they're making gas station dick pills, and the next one they clean it out. They're not cleaning them.
That's my girlfriend. She Dana has a peanut allergy, so she can't even go anywhere near that stuff. And even if they cook, they can't cook it somewhere else because you never know how clean the plate is or whatever they're cooking on.
The peanut allergy is so dangerous. They don't even let people eat peanuts on planes anymore because the dust from eating peanuts gets in the air and people can get sick.
Dude, can you believe they used to? I remember when they allowed smoking on a plane.
Oh, yeah.
Which is hilarious because that kind of gets into with the COVID stuff. Like the plane has the greatest air filter system out there. So you could literally smoke in the front row and it didn't affect really far in the back.
No. I remember being stuck in the back because that was the only place I can get a seat was in the smoking section back when people did smoke on planes. That was
in the back?
Yeah, it was in the back. The back was the smoking section where the toilet was. So you'd smell shit and cigarettes the entire flight. Yeah, no, that thing didn't work. Maybe their ventilation systems weren't as good back then, but there was smoke everywhere back there. So even get a photo of the smoking section on an airplane in like the 1980s.
I remember I was playing the club called Riddles in Chicago, just outside. It's like, I forget what the city outside Chicago, but it was one of the last places that you could still smoke inside. And the stage was so high, so you would literally be like in the smoke.
So here's people smoking on an airplane.
That's so crazy, dude. Like when they always announce this is a non-smoking flight, like where are the smoking flights?
I remember we'd get in planes even in the 90s, and there were still ashtrays in them.
Is that Alex Jones in the crowd?
Time traveler. I'm a fucking time traveler. That's Alex Jones' dad. Look at all these people smoking. Crazy. Smoking section of a plane. It looks fairly smoke-free. They probably had some ventilation back then. So this is 84 in Miami. Is this when this guy's smoking and they're interviewing him on the plane? Is this when they were trying to ban it?
Yeah, probably. This looks like a
I
conversation.
seem to be asking people about what they think.
When did they ban it? When did they ban in-flight smoking? Oh, let's take a guess. I'm going to say 94. What do you say?
Oh, I think it's way before that.
87.
Yeah, so 7
Yeah.
years.
Congressional action in 1987 led to a ban on in-flight smoking. In 88, airlines based in the United States banned smoking on domestic flights of less than 2 hours. So more than 2 hours you could smoke, which was extended to domestic flights of less than 6 hours in 1990 and to all domestic and international flights in 2000. International flights, 2000. Pilots were allowed to continue smoking after the 1990 ban due to concerns over potential flight safety issues caused by nicotine withdrawal in chronic smokers. Yo! Due to prohibition of
Let them
smoking.
do whatever they need to do to land the plane. I think.
Yeah,
Fuck it.
give them a fucking patch. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration regulations mandate that functioning ashtrays be conspicuously located on the doors of all airplane bathrooms. This is because there must be a safe place to dispose of a lit cigarette if someone violates the no smoking rule.
That's why they're there.
1990, Air Canada adopted non-smoking policy on all of its routes. In 94, Canada was the first country to ban smoking on all flights operated by Canadian carriers, which also covered charter flights, but not foreign airlines flying to Canada. Wow. So basically 2000 when they wrapped it all up.
Which I'm happy about.
Yeah.
You can still smoke in restaurants then.
Wow. I remember the Addison Improv used to still have smoking, and we'd come from L.A., and in the early days, the Comedy Store, they had smoking.
That's crazy.
In the 90s, you could smoke indoors. And I remember Drew Carey, of all people, Barney's Beanery, they put a ban on smoking in all restaurants and bars in Los Angeles, and Drew Carey was protesting it. And the idea
That's
was that
nuts.
I know, it's
Right?
crazy. He was one of the people. The idea was that like you're going to kill the business, and you're going to also freedom. Like people know that you can smoke there. If you don't want to go to a place that's smoky, don't go there.
Yeah.
But the thing you have to think about is
But now you can smoke weed indoors.
there 98 Reason Smoke In with Drew
Smoke In.
Carey. Yeah. I remember Drew Carey was like a outspoken guy about all this,
That's at Barney's, right?
and he's smoking. He's smoking at Barney's Beanery. I guess he was a smoker. I didn't know he was a smoker.
Yeah.
but
all
that
the
makes sense.
libertarians show up.
But it's all they were like, hey, we've always smoked. Don't take away our freedom. But the thing you have to take in consideration is waitresses and bartenders.
Yes.
Like, those people die from lung cancer because of secondhand smoke. Because if you're only breathing in smoke, the whole place
All the
is smoke.
time. Yeah.
Do you remember that gig we did in Toronto?
Yeah.
The weed gig?
Yeah, I call it gorillas in the mist because you couldn't see anybody in the crowd. You just see like just black figures moving, dark shady figures moving in this mist.
The entire room was filled with weed smoke to the point where you literally could barely see. Like you weren't breathing air. You were breathing weed smoke.
You were contact high the minute your foot hit the stage.
Oh, yeah.
You were bonkers.
Guys who didn't smoke pot would go there.
Done.
I don't think you were smoking pot at
No,
the time.
no.
Guys who didn't smoke pot would go there and be obliterated. Like by the time they did their set, they couldn't remember their jokes. They were confused and anxious and fucking scared. And
Toronto's got a great comedy scene right now. I just did a gig up there, and it reminded me a lot of your club. Dude, those kids don't care, bro. They'll
Really?
say everything to anybody all the time. I'm like, how is this possible?
Well, I think Canada is experiencing a lot of people that are rebelling against the tyrannical government. The government is so bad now. In Canada, you can't post links to stories. So they did it in a very sneaky way, saying that these social media companies have to compensate the media outlets that have the thing. But the thing is, it's like a lot of them are just links. You can't even post a link to a story in the New York Times.
How is anybody okay with that? How are people in the far left, right? The progressive left, which is like the last, I'd say like 10% of the population, right?
Right.
How are they okay with information being censored? Like, why would you even, no matter what your stance is,
I think
when
they
you
did it
want
in a
the
sneaky
data?
way. They did it in a sneaky way, saying that this is financially unfair to these media corporations who are suffering. I mean, that is true. Like, there's the reason why they have to make these horrible clickbait ads, and the reason why editors put clickbait stories and headlines is because they just need people to click on the links. They're fucking starving. They're all going under. The LA Times just fired a bunch of people. Like, newspapers are barely hanging in.
So my question to you is, like, you don't think it has anything to do with censoring
No,
information?
no, it does, for sure. This was my point. My point was the premise of it seemed reasonable. More people need to go to Canada Times, wherever the fuck it is, to get their information. They shouldn't be going to Twitter or Facebook. And so to make people go to these websites to get their news, we're going to stop all of the ability to take these things and post them. But what you're really doing is you're stopping awareness.
Yes.
Because people aren't going to be able to filter out all like back in the day when we would just read newspapers. You had to be a fucking real nut to get into the Kennedy assassination.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be a real nut. You had to be reading books.
Yes.
You had to really get
You
into
had to be
it.
meeting in basements to have
Somebody
conversations.
had to tell you about it, and you went and got the book.
Yes.
And you didn't get anything from the internet. There was nothing. There was no internet, so it didn't exist. So you would have to get a physical newspaper to read it, and most people only read the stuff in the beginning or the sports page. So you read the first couple of pages, see if you're going to die. Are we going to die? What's going on in Saudi Arabia?
Yep.
What's going on in Yemen? And then once you get past that, you get to the sports and you read the comics or whatever. And that was why we were so uninformed. We were grossly uninformed because most people...
We were naive.
Right, very. And now, most of the news I get is from links. Most of the news I get is, you'll send me a link, Alex Jones will send me something, someone will send me something. You know, Michael Malice will send me something. I get stuff from Dave Smith. I get
Great
stuff
resources.
I get stuff from people sending me something, and then I go to Twitter and I find things and I send it to them.
Twitter's
and we all
great.
send each other stuff. And this has greatly increased people's awareness of things like this fucking martial law bill that they passed through. Who fucking would have known about that? Who would have known that the government made a decision to make lethal force from the military something they can use on citizens that are protesting?
Back in. There's a long story about how this has maybe been misinterpreted over the last few weeks online. This is a report done by.
This is the martial law thing.
It's been a thing, I guess, originally since 2007. It was taken down offline for a while, then reposted, and that's why they're saying that they call that a data void.
Well, it says a reissued Department of Defense directive that documents procedures around when there is potential use of lethal force against Americans. Subset of these rumors allege a directive to be suspiciously timed with the coming election. Yeah, kinda. Myriad and evolving rumors rely upon speculation about the motivations behind the changes to the DoD directive and perceive differences between this new document and existing documents. This sounds a little bit like they're trying to minimize this.
I mean, they
Of
go through the
course.
timeline of this is exactly what I was trying to say.
Right, but the bottom line is this is for the first time in history where they have pushed this directive, and it is happening during an election, and it is a thing where they're now saying you can use lethal force on protesters. So all these things, you're trying to gaslight people into thinking this is not a big deal. This is a gigantic deal.
This is a huge deal. And like this kind of fits into my whole belief about what the alleged kidnapping of the Michigan governor, which turned out to be a bunch of just
FBI informants.
I saw the funniest meme, and Ari was like, "What's this
Spider-Man
meme?"
one?
Oh yeah, fed, some autistic fuck, right? Right. It was so funny. And then you get into so they took that guy who's running that FBI program and moved him over to January 6th, and he was in charge of that.
Yes.
So it's like, I personally believe, if you go, Sam, what do you think that's all about? I think those two events were to try to drum up support for the Homeland Security opening up a Department of Domestic Terrorism in which they can label a U.S. citizen a domestic terrorist, which means all your civil rights go away.
Right.
And
Right.
that's a big movement right now within the government to be able to take away your civil rights.
Which, if there are domestic terrorists, we should have a movement to stop domestic terrorism. But when you have agent provocateurs who infiltrate these organizations and then turn them into terrorist
Yes.
organizations so that they can go in and shut these protest organizations down, that's when things get dirty. And that seems like that's what happened during
Or
January
even pushing
6th.
the whatever event they want to happen, kind
Right.
of convincing, hey guys, maybe we should go try to do this.
Yes.
This governor's causing some crazy.
12 out of the 14 people
So crazy.
were working with the FBI. 12 out of 14, these two losers who got roped into it. And then there's that kid who, the 19-year-old kid who they talked into detonating that fake bomb. You know that kid?
Yeah.
You know, I believe that was in Dallas. So they take this young, stupid kid and they fucking radicalize him, and then they give him a cell phone and tell him, press these buttons and that bomb will go off. They give him the fake bomb. Bomb doesn't work. He does it, and they're like, we got you.
Yeah.
Like, wait, use your idea.
Yeah, 100%. Do you guys remember that really weird case that happened either Utah or New Mexico where they found that compound, and then they were like, they basically discovered that, according to the guy running the compound, that they were training school shooters.
What?
And, yeah.
No.
Yes. And then the case just got dismissed and sent away. And it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life, dude, that they were training school shooters here.
What was this? How long ago was this?
This was like a couple of years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago.
So this place was training New Mexico compound suspects were training children for school shootings, prosecutors say. 2018. What?
And then they just dismissed the case, or the case just went away.
The 5 suspects accused of abusing 11 children at a New Mexico compound were training them to commit school shootings, prosecutors said Wednesday. The defendants were to be released from custody. There's a substantial likelihood defendant may commit new crimes due to his planning and preparation for future school shootings, the court document said. The filings did not provide further details about the alleged training. The makeshift compound appeared to have a shooting range on the property, and loaded firearms were found on the property, authorities said. A foster parent of one of the children also said the defendant had trained the child in the use of assault rifle in preparation for future school shootings. Whoa. And so what happened with this?
The case gets like either dismissed or something like that. It's really weird. It's really weird. But if you get into...
Wait a minute. An imam was a part of this? Scroll up a little bit. Wahaj's father, Imam Siraj Wahaj. How do you say that? Wahaj?
Dude, if you
A
can't say it,
controversial-
I can't say
A
it.
New York imam has said he has no knowledge of the alleged training, said spokesman Imam Al-Hajj Talib Abdur Rashid.
Oh, man.
The imam was the first Muslim to offer an opening prayer before the U.S. House of Representatives. Oh, how convenient. The Muslim Alliance in North America... Oops. No thanks. The Muslim Alliance in North America said he's also a character witness for a convicted 1993 World Trade Center bombing mastermind, Omar Abdel Rahman. Jesus Christ.
This is what I'm telling you, dude. Everything is an intelligence trick, dude.
Well, there's certainly a lot of intelligence tricks. And that's something that people are super reluctant to admit to, despite the overwhelming amount of evidence. But if you go, how you doing with that 3? You all right?
I took it out already.
You took it out?
Yeah, it was good. It was much better.
Mild.
It's mild. I can handle. I like because I
Perfect
want to
amount.
do it. I like this stuff.
Sparks you up a little bit.
Yeah, I like it.
You
I
smoke
like
a little cigar every now and then?
here and there. My brother loves cigars, and my grandfather loves cigars. I just never got into it. The only time I ever smoked anything was if I was at a bar and a hot chick started smoking cigarettes. That would be my in. Hey, got a cig, and then I would just start slinging, right? But, but I never really got
Slinging
into
game.
Yeah,
Slinging game. Yeah. Cigarettes are a wild one because if someone's willing to smoke cigarettes, they're probably willing to do a lot of wild things.
Yeah, it is weird.
There's like a thing
But
about,
it is the one thing that I'm not into. Like women can almost do anything, and I find it hot. Smoking is like one I'm just not into.
it's bad choices. Federal jury convicts 4 New Mexico compound defendants in connection with kidnapping and terrorism plot.
Is this the same one?
Wow, kidnapping and terrorism.
Oh, yeah.
According to evidence presented at trial and other publicly available court records, in December, Siraj Wahaj unlawfully abducted his 3-year-old son from his wife in Alabama, Layville.
I think that sounds right.
And the defendants had formed the belief that the child was her son and was possessed by demons. The group took the child to New Mexico, depriving him of his medication and the loving care of his mother, and subjected him to an exhausting regimen of daily spiritual exorcisms.
Some kids.
The child died fewer than 2 weeks after arriving in New Mexico before investigators say any knowledge. So this is a lot of wild shit going on over this place. Armed with 11 firearms, including AR-15, Bushmaster, assault rifle, high-capacity magazines, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition, the group conducted weapons and tactical training and required some of the children to do so as well. The group conducted the training with the intent to face the nation and kill those who refused to believe as they did. They spoke of waging jihad and becoming martyrs. Oh, fun. I wonder how many of them have snuck in through the border, kids.
These poor kids, man, born into a world of shit.
Oh, yeah, man.
Sucks, man.
Oh, yeah.
We won the lottery, dude.
We won the lottery. Yeah, we certainly did.
It's crazy to me, dude.
It is crazy.
And this is just like, but, you know, this is my whole thing. I always, you know, going back to the lizard people stuff at the beginning was like, if there wasn't this apex predator class, like out there manipulating energy and manipulating people, like how much chaos would be happening in the world, you know?
Right.
There
right.
always seems to be like, if you dig deeper, okay, there's an intelligence agent somewhere involved in that. And
well, whenever you have money, this is back from War is a Racket, the Smedley Butler thing that he wrote in the 1930s. This is a guy who was a famous general, and after it was all over, he realized like all his years of service.
Well, they approached him to do assassination, and he said, no, I won't do it. Like corporations wanted to assassinate, I think it was FDR. I'm not quite sure which the president was, but they approached him about basically doing a banker coup on the government, and he said he wouldn't do it.
Jesus Christ.
How crazy is that?
There's been a few of those organized over the years, which is fucking terrifying. But this is just like what happens whenever people are in power, especially unchecked power. And, you know, this whole term, the deep state, people want to think of that as conspiracy theory. Okay, you have elected officials. Elected officials have to get elected. But the people that run intelligence agencies don't have to get elected, and they have massive access to money.
And power.
And they don't want to leave that position. The business plot called the Wall Street Putsch, how do you say that? Putsch? P-U-T-S-C-H? Push?
Dude, whatever you attempt is good to me.
Okay. The White House political conspiracy in 1933 in the United States to overthrow the government, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and install Smedley Butler as dictator. Butler, a retired Marine Corps Major General, testified under oath that wealthy businessmen were plotting to create a fascist veterans organization with him as its leader and use it as a coup d'etat to overthrow Roosevelt. In 1934, Butler testified under oath before the United States House of Representatives Special Committee on Un-American Activities, the McCormick Dickstein, what an unfortunate name, committee on these revelations. Although no one was prosecuted, the Congressional Committee final report said there is no question that these attempts were discussed, were planned, and might have been placed in execution when and if the financial backers deemed it expedient. Holy fuck, man. Holy fuck.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's so crazy to me because, like, just hearing that is like, if you actually study FDR, like, he very much was a Wall Street puppet. Like, he very much was in there. doing their bidding, and he had a lot like all this crazy stuff with Pearl Harbor, connections to Hitler, all this crazy stuff that people never hear about. And it's super interesting to me that when he's seen as a puppet of Wall Street, they're also trying to take him out.
And also, if you think back then, there was no access to information. So they could do all this stuff like the assassination of Kennedy. They could do all this stuff and completely cover it up. There was no one had a chance. No one had a chance. And anybody who opened their mouth was dead. Anybody that opened their mouth wound up dying in suspicious circumstances.
Well, yeah. So I just did an episode with a guy, he's called the Dark Journalist. That's what he goes by. And he, mind blown. He was telling me, like, yeah, all the people that you think were involved in the assassination of JFK, they were involved. The intelligence agency, multiple intelligence agencies, the Federal Reserve, a bunch of people. One of the groups that I never heard of was basically the space program. Like the people who ran the space program of that time were involved in it because Kennedy wanted to share all the information they had on like UFOs and technologies with the Russians because he didn't want the Russians to think if they saw something weird in the sky, it was the U.S. and like some kind of weird nuclear weapon. Yeah. So, and you think about back then, who was involved in the space station, say with me, Nazis who were brought over, we discussed last time I was on
Operation
the show.
Paperclip.
Yeah. I don't think the Nazis lost. I think they just crip walked over here and set up shop.
Well, they definitely lost, but we took all the good ones that were engineers and scientists.
But
Russia took the other ones.
The only pushback I have on that, dude, is that if it's some kind of thing where we're sneaking them over, they're bringing them over, like nobody changes their names, like everybody.
Well, they didn't have to sneak them over. They were brought under the protection of the United States government, and no one could know if they were Nazis. There was no information.
Yeah,
it
but
wasn't
Von
available.
Braun had his name, and he was like on trial. Everyone's like, we got this Nazi over here.
The Simon Wiesenthal Center said that if Von Braun was alive today, they would charge him with crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
They hung the 5 slowest Jews in their rocket factory in Berlin to motivate people to work harder.
It's so crazy.
They were all Nazis.
So if you think about the Nazis hated the Russians, and he wanted to share all this information with the Russians, and they did not like that at all. And here's the craziest thing. I always like, what do I want to tell Joe? Here's the craziest thing. I've had people on my show talking about this. Like, there is a belief out there that the head of the power pyramid of intelligence agencies is NASA. Because if you think about this, it's the one thing that everybody wants to work together on. Like, we're possibly we're having this weird kind of nuclear standoff with Russians, but somehow, some way, we're all working on a space station together. That and Antarctica are the two things where everyone like puts their differences aside. We're like, let's all work together. And it's like there is this real belief that the head of the snake of the intelligence agencies, which is like Mossad, CIA, MI6, is NASA space station, is the NASA organization.
Space Administration.
Yeah.
The thing that would make that plausible is if the knowledge of alien life is absolute, real, and they have to protect that information from getting out.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to me because it's the one thing everybody works on. Even Antarctica's like, they're all in on this treaty. And then everyone's claiming a piece of Antarctica. And they all just work together, even though they don't want to even though they may not get along in every.
What do you think about all that talk of direct energy weapons in Antarctica and all that shit? Here we go. Look at, he had to take a breath.
100%. Like you go, Sam, who runs the world? Who runs the world, Sam? Hand of God, sorcerers. Okay? I'm not even kidding. And it's sorcerers run the world. We're battering sorcery. And at the highest levels, this is my honest opinion, all the new tech, next generation weaponry is just hardwired mysticism, dude. It's like they've been working on this shit for years and years and years and years. Like, not just like years, we're talking centuries, if not thousands of years. And you take a look at weather manipulation, direct energy weapons, this reading my mind. They can wipe your whole mind of like thoughts. It's all sorcery, dude. We are literally in a time where, like, Halle Berry's character in Marvel Universe, we're doing that stuff. Doctor Strange stuff. I mean, we're doing all that stuff that we think is amazing in Marvel Comics. Our government has that technology. What Elon Musk puts out these robots, like, hey, how are you doing? I think that's the flip phone of robots right now. What DARPA has is 40, 50 years in the future.
Well, we can see what they're working on. So the thing about DARPA is like Boston Dynamics. Boston Dynamics is a publicly traded company.
Yeah.
And is it? I think it is. But the thing is, they show all their innovations and they show all the new stuff they're working on. But the stuff that they're working on keeps getting better and better and better to the point where, like, when are they going to stop showing us? Because, like, they have robots that do, like, those ninja courses now.
Yeah.
Have you seen those?
Yeah.
They do backflips. They can run like cheetahs.
Yeah, I think that's the slow rollout so we get used to it. I think what the DARPA has, the real stuff, is way beyond that. And they slow roll it out to us over time.
I'd believe that.
Their stuff is...
That's what I believe most of the UFO stuff is.
Yeah, 100. Like, you know, you look at Area 51, they're like, oh, look at this. It's this crazy base. That's not even the base. That is the smoke screen.
Well, Area S4...
Is that big mountain?
Yeah, that's where Bob Lazar claims he was working on back engineering the flying saucers.
I just heard the craziest thing about Bob Lazar.
What'd you hear?
Like, he got busted running a hooker fucking...
A brothel?
Yeah.
I think he did.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. He's a wild boy living in Vegas.
He's a wild boy.
Well, also, this is a guy that put a jet engine in the back of his Honda. You know, he was kind of a crazy person before. I mean, he was a young man. That's why they brought him over, allegedly, to Area S4 in the first place. Because, like, the way science is supposed to work is you get a bunch of people and they collaborate on something and you write papers so that other scientists can review it and find out if it's correct.
Yeah.
The way they were doing it, everything was compartmentalized because it was so top secret. They couldn't let other science doing it and other scientists work on it. And so because of that, they weren't making any progress. So what they would have to do is bring in completely new scientists every few years. With new eyes and go, what do you think of this? And they didn't even tell them what it is. When Lazar said, I had dinner with Lazar. He's very compelling. Me and Andrew Schultz had dinner with Lazar and Jeremy Corbell. And Lazar is very compelling. And what he essentially was saying was that when he got there, they showed him this thing, and it had an American flag sticker on it. And he was like, oh, that makes sense. It's ours. So this thing that people keep seeing is one of ours. And then as he starts examining this thing, he realizes, like, this doesn't have any seams. Like, this thing is like 3D printed of some unknown alloy. There's no controls inside of it. It's designed for something that's like 3 feet tall. Like, what the fuck is going on? And then there's some reactor in there that has an element that's a completely theoretical element in a stable form that they're bombarding with radiation that manipulates gravity.
Yeah.
And so they're telling him, like, tell us how this works. It's like, what?
So what's that called when you go back?
Back engineering.
Back engineering, yeah.
Yeah, so that was what his job was, back engineering it. But when he was doing this, he was on a completely top secret level of information to the point where when you're at that level, they have to monitor they bug your house, they monitor your phone calls, everything. So he couldn't even tell his wife what he was doing. So the way it works is they fly you out of Vegas. And so they give you a call, 11 p.m., go to Vegas. Go to the airport. You got to go. So he tells his wife, I got to go to work. She's like, what? You have to go to work at 11 o'clock at night? What are you doing? He's like, I got to go to work. And so she was like, fuck this dude. He's cheating on me. I'm going to cheat. So she starts banging her flight instructor. She's taking flight lessons. She starts banging this guy. And so because Lazar would be in an emotionally unstable position if his wife is having an affair, he loses his top secret clearance and they have to relieve him. He can't work there anymore. So then he's telling his friends now. He's like, you can't believe what I've been working on. I want to show you. And every Wednesday, they had this area where you can go to, this plateau, and you could look out at Area S4, and you could see in the sky them piloting these crafts. So he goes there with his friends on multiple occasions and gets arrested. And once he gets arrested, then he realizes, they might fucking kill me.
Yeah.
I'm going to come clean, and I'm going to tell my story. So then he contacts George Knapp, who was an investigative journalist out of Las Vegas. And the first ones that he does, the first interview he does, he's got his face blacked out. You can't see him. And then he's like, you know what? To save my life, I probably should be like full public with this. It might be the only way they don't fucking kill me. So they were threatening him, and very mysterious, breaking into his house, very creepy, mysterious shit. So then he tells the whole story. Hasn't varied from that story at all in more than 30 years.
What do you think of disclosure? Do you think there's some bad agents in it?
I think this sometimes when people come in and talk to me about it, I think they probably use people like me as a mouthpiece to spread bullshit.
Bill Cooper thought that. He thought that they gave him documents so he would go out and tell people.
Yeah, I bet they do. That's the best way to hide something. The way you hide something is you connect it with a bunch of stupid shit. Like you connect it to Bigfoot. You connect it to Skinwalker Ranch. You make it seem kooky, and then people just dismiss it. They dismiss all of it. And I think that's the best way to hide a drone program. Best way to hide a drone program is say, we are in possession of things that are not of this world.
Yes.
Like, wow, really?
Yes.
And there's these top secret organizations, and they want to stay top secret. But as you notice, with all this disclosure, nothing really gets out. It's just talk.
Yes.
And so this is what gives me, all my spidey senses go off. Like, I've smelled bullshit.
Nothing's really happening.
Right. Nothing's happening. And Jeremy Corbell's convinced the new disclosures are right around the corner because he's balls deep in this stuff. I'm like, okay, maybe, but I'm not seeing anything. What I'm seeing is a bunch of people talking about these things, and that doesn't mean anything to me. They're interesting. I'll keep having them come on. I'll keep talking to people. It's interesting.
Do you think they give people information hoping they'll put it out?
100%. I think there's also people that are still in the government that say they're whistleblowers, and they go out and they spread false information.
I have a friend of mine, he's named Trevor. He told this story on my show about his dad worked at this institute in Chicago, and his dad was just like a handyman at the place. He'd fix stuff, right? And one day he gets a call to a level that he's never been before. And he goes, okay, I'm going down. So he goes all the way down. He gets in it. It's like a weird, just a weird floor. It's like weird energy. He starts walking down the hall. He looks in. There's animal experiments going on. His dad tells him this, and his dad tells him this way later on. He doesn't have much time left in his life at this point, so he tells him this story, and it's he says he sees some weird stuff with monkeys going on, a weird thing with a horse in this thing. So he keeps walking. He's like, "What is going on here?" And he goes far enough, right, and he sees this. There's just this room with this giant craft, and he's in awe of this craft, and he. Trevor's dad tells him, I see something in there and it's gray. I don't know what it is. And then all of a sudden this tiny green thing is walking on the outside of this craft. And he goes, what the fuck is that? Suddenly, bang, guns are on him. It's security. What are you doing here? He's like, I just work here. I was sent down here to just fix something. They're like, get out of here. And they're like, what are we going to do with him? So he says that he has to agree never to tell anybody anything, right? But as his dad tells Trevor, every time he travels, he'll go to a random country somewhere, he'll get pulled in security, he gets put in a room, and these men in black come out and sit down and go, did you tell anybody? Did you tell anybody? And he's like, I haven't told anybody anything. And this would happen to him multiple times. And Trevor said his dad's not that creative, never would come up with crazy stuff like this. Told him towards the end of his life when it was coming to an end. So my question is, do they have him come down hoping that he'll start talking about this with people? Because part of this...
Probably not. If it's real, it's probably incompetence. It's probably some incompetent person told them to go down there. Some arrogant, incompetent person that thought they had complete control over the scenario and they needed someone to go down there and do something. Just send him down there.
So
maybe they trusted him.
Maybe, but it's also
because if he's working on anything top secret, they're listening to all his phone calls.
Well, he wasn't. He was like a maintenance guy that worked upstairs.
I guarantee after that they listened to all his phone calls.
Well, they knew where he's traveling. They'd show up with these men in black.
Well, they probably listened to everything he did too, just to make sure that he wasn't flapping his gums.
So this whole thing with the men in black too, there's this belief right now that maybe it's because you see videos of them walking through walls and all, that they're just
what?
They're just astral projections. Where have you ever seen videos where men in black just kind of show up anywhere, walk through a wall?
No, where are you getting these videos?
Dude, the streets, dog.
The streets.
The streets. Twitter. I mean, I get sent all this stuff.
They might be bullshit.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Or it's like...
Well, if you were going to be an alien and you were going to blend in with human beings, dressing up in a suit would be the best way to do it. Be a person in a suit, wear sunglasses so they don't see your eyes, and just, move around like a normal person. If you can come here from another planet, you don't think you could disguise yourself as a different life form?
Possibly.
Of course.
Do you think aliens are from other planets? I think they might be angels and demons.
I'm not opposed to that idea. I think there's there's definitely dimensions that we don't, like, Brian Cox was here yesterday, as I was saying, and he was trying to explain to me quantum computing and how quickly quantum computing works, like that a problem that would literally take the entire amount of time that the Earth has existed to solve by a regular computer can be solved in a second by a quantum computer. And this quantum computer is literally somehow or another accessing other universes to come to its conclusion. To do these calculations, it's not only operating in this universe. It's operating in other dimensions simultaneously and instantaneously. The way he said it was like, and by the way, this is Brian Cox, who's like, like a serious physicist.
Yeah.
He's a professor.
One of the smart ones.
He's a genius. And, and he's literally explaining the mechanisms of quantum computing and explaining that quantum computing, even though they can't even figure out how to program it yet, is already showing that wormholes are possible.
That's so crazy.
So there's wormholes are being used somehow in the quantum computing process. Again, I'm sure I'm butchering this. Brian, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I butchered
one of
your
my
words.
favorite things to do on YouTube, I go down weird rabbit holes. Like, I like to watch weird shit on YouTube. I love watching black people get their hair cut. I fucking love that shit. I don't know why. Okay. It's just entertaining. But one of my favorite things to do is watch long form math.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I don't know why, because I'm like...
It's like you're watching an alien language.
Yeah, so, like, I watched this one video where it was, like, 17 lines of math. And then they get to the conclusion, and all I wrote was, I've never done this in my real life, ever in my life. I've never had to use any of this stuff, because it's so smart.
Right.
And I love to just, like, be like, this isn't how I use it in real life. It's
all that is rudimentary in comparison to this quantum computing idea. And what's fascinating about the quantum computing idea is that if there is this theory of many worlds. So if this theory is accurate, and there are an infinite number of universes, let's say, that it's entirely within the realm of possibility, if you think of that being a real thing, that something can transport itself from those other dimensions to where we are. So it might not be a metal craft that comes from Venus. It might not be something so simple. Like, that's probably too simple for our stupid little minds might put it into that category.
Right.
And also, that might be how they present themselves to us to make themselves seem at least tangible.
Yeah.
Instead of what they really are, which is probably outside of our ability to grasp.
Our understanding.
Yeah.
Our minds can't do that.
So whatever these things are, I bet they're from multiple sources. I bet there are actual physical things that come from somewhere. But do they come from other planets? Do they come from other dimensions? Is it both? Are some of them interstellar travelers and some of them interdimensional travelers? Maybe. I mean, I think we're basically ants. We're these, like, very rudimentary things that, as far as we know, we're the most complex thing in the universe. And I think if you scale that, this is one of the things that Brian and I were talking about, that if you take artificial intelligence and quantum computing and you imagine a sentient life form that relies on quantum computing instead of regular, and it has access to, like, nuclear power plants to power it, you essentially create a god. You get to the point where something is so powerful that it literally can control all the elements in the known universe, and then have access to other universes. And that this might be what we're dealing with. And we might be dealing with these beings that have always been here, and they come and go, and they observe, or they intervene, or one of the things Lazar talked about, one of the most bizarre things he found, he said they had this very thick document that was all about religion, and that essentially what these life forms use us as is containers. And he didn't understand what that meant by that. Like, what is in, like, containers for what? He's like, I don't know. But they think of us as containers. And you would think maybe containers for souls. If the soul's a real thing, and look, the concept of the soul has existed forever. Very unusual for the concept of something to exist for a long time with no basis in reality. That's why I'm interested in dragons. Like, why is every civilization, why do they all have dragons?
They mention dragons in the Bible a bunch of times. They don't mention dinosaurs.
Well, I think because people weren't alive when dinosaurs were alive, but I bet they were alive when dragons were alive. I bet dragons were a real thing. And in fact, Forrest Galante, who's a wildlife biologist, believes that there's a real possibility that dragons were an actual animal. But that if you have an animal that has bones that are similar to like bird bones and something that, like how many of them would you find? What would you find that's left of that? Most things don't fossilize.
I think dinosaurs are dragons. That's what I think they were.
Well, I mean, it's possible that there was some form of look. Birds survived this impact in the Yucatan. Whatever killed the dinosaurs did not kill chickens. All right, because chickens are literal dinosaurs.
Yeah,
they're literal dinosaurs. And if you've ever seen a chicken eat a mouse, it's fucking wild. They're the most ruthless, ferocious little animals. Raptors, birds, those are all eagles. American eagle's a goddamn dinosaur. And that's what it is. They're dinosaurs that lived. And in fact, some of the more recent models of what dinosaurs looked like, they've updated to add feathers. When I was in, what is that?
I just saw this earlier today.
Dinosaur's preserved tail in amber. So look at that, feathers. Feathers in a dinosaur's tail. So there's a museum in Bozeman, Montana. And this museum has one side of this raptor. They have a velociraptor, and on one side of it, it's like a real-size velociraptor. And on one side, they have it with like dinosaur skin, like we like to think of it. But the other side, they have this theoretical version of it that's covered in feathers. And that's probably what dinosaurs had. So dinosaurs died during the impact, but not all of them. The birds lived. And they're just smaller. There was no food. Okay, so like a big Tyrannosaurus Rex, there's nothing to eat. You're gonna starve to death. Those things died off, but the little ones lived, and it's so possible that something that flew like a pterodactyl, like we think of pterodactyls as being like bat wings.
Yes.
Maybe they had feathers. Maybe that was a gigantic fucking predatory bird, and maybe some of those fucking things look like dragons. Maybe the images that think of all these different cultures, ancient, medieval Europe, China, Japan.
Oh yeah, China for sure.
All of them had dragons.
You're the dragon.
There's so many dragons. Like it might have been a real thing, and I think most of them didn't have dragons that spit fire either. I think that was like a fucking Hollywood movie, Godzilla type deal.
Well, do you think the alligator is a dinosaur?
Predates the dinosaurs. Crocodilian species predate dinosaurs.
Really?
Yeah. There was crocodiles and crocodile species, enormous ones, by the way, that predated the dinosaur. And I think modern alligators, they go back really sharks predate trees.
Really?
Predate trees. There were sharks on Earth before there were trees.
Maybe we were all underwater for a long time.
Well, life definitely existed underwater a long ass fucking time
crocodiles
ago.
are older than trees also.
Jesus Christ.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, so those are dinosaurs. When you see a giant Nile crocodile, those are fucking dinosaurs. That's a type of reptile.
They scare me.
They should.
I drive. I'll be in Florida. We'll be driving. There'll be like a dead crocodile ran the side road.
Alligator,
I'm like,
mostly in Florida.
they're all the same to me. They scare the shit out of me, dude.
They should. They're fucking
people walking their dogs and they just come up and grab them,
Snatch
and then
'em.
the guy jumps in there and like tries to save the dog. Like,
Bro.
Florida people don't give a fuck.
Yeah, they're not that wise. That's one of the crazy stories I heard. This guy was running from the cops, gets to a bridge, jumps off the bridge right onto an alligator. Alligator eats him.
No
right in front of
way.
the cops.
Or how about that guy who tried to save the shark? Do you see that video?
What?
Where he tries to save the shark on the beach and he drags it in and the shark just turns around and kills him.
Oh God!
You can watch that video if you want to see it, dude.
God, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, dude.
That one video in Egypt where they're at a resort and this kid is swimming and he's screaming for his father as he's getting slaughtered.
Oh no, I can't watch that.
Oh, he's screaming, "Papa, Papa!" He's just getting fucking murdered by this shark. Whoa. Whoa. You see his legs go up in the air. You see the water turn red. He still tries to scream. Yeah, fuck sharks.
What would you do if that was your kid?
What can you do? You can't help them. There's nothing you can do. The kid's hundreds of yards into the water.
Yeah.
By the time you get there, he's already dead.
Yeah.
And you're going to be dead too. Most likely, it's a feeding frenzy at this point. You go out there, it's a suicide mission. You can't. You just have to live with a nightmare for the rest of your life. What's
Like
that, Jamie? What do you got? What are you holy shitting?
Oh, don't watch it. Don't watch it.
No. I don't want to see this guy get killed.
Or how about that kid that jumped off his cruise into the water and it was shark filled?
Oh God! Damn
It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Well, there's a reason why.
Darwinism.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Natural selection. The people that have stupid ideas, they don't make it, and that's always been the case.
It's getting crazy. It's just was the world always crazy, and it just and just social media has allowed us to see it in real time.
Well, it's super crazy today because we have more capability, right? Because now we have guns and nuclear weapons, and back in the day, it was people were super crazy, but they killed everybody with arrows.
Yeah,
and catapults. I mean, you just listen.
It's more hands-on in a weird way.
Just think about all the shit that humans did back when there was no written history. We did horrific, horrible things. Wiped out the Mongols killed somewhere in the neighborhood of, during Genghis Khan's lifetime, 50 to 70 million people.
Crazy.
They killed 10% of the population of Earth. Yeah, so people have always been
and his
horrible.
DNA's in like half of the people on planet Earth. He's just
Nutty.
he's just slitting throats and dropping dick.
Oh, he was dropping dick all over the place, taking everybody as a wife, air quotes, wife. This is my new wife. But it's like humans have always been crazy. We're probably less violent now, but more capability and more awareness of all the chaos in the world because it's
It makes
in
me
your face.
sad having to watch all of it, and then watching like the parties kind of you got these liberals now that are pro-war. It's like the weirdest thing ever, dude.
We
Like,
have to win.
Yeah.
We have to win in Ukraine. Like, what are you talking about? Russia has nukes. They've threatened to use them. Are you fucking serious? Like,
I tried to start a change.org, right, to get us to help the Ukraine get their own Federal Reserve so that they can print their own money and we don't have to send them any more money, and I couldn't get anyone to sign it. I was like, join my change.org. Let's have them print their own fake money so they can load up our money. Why do they need our fake printed up money?
Well, it's because it's a big scam. It's a big
Bingo.
weapon manufacturer scam. The money is not just going straight to Ukraine. It's going to weapons manufacturers.
Yep.
And they're giving Ukraine in aid. They're giving them tanks and weapons. And the craziest one is the Taliban in Afghanistan. When we leave behind billions of dollars of high-tech war equipment. And then they put parades on where they're driving down the street with tanks and flying Black Hawks. Like, what?
So crazy just to leave that all there.
Leave it all there.
Billions.
And empower the Taliban with modern weapons. These guys that are living in fucking caves, fucking goats all day. And now all of a sudden they have Black Hawks.
It's so nuts. That whole area is crazy.
Oh my God, you don't even know the half of it. I have a buddy who served over there, multiple deployments in Afghanistan, and he told me it's insane. So just the male rape, men raping each other and raping boys. He said it's fucking rampant.
It's called Man Loves Thursdays.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
It ain't just happening on Thursday, bro.
Well, Brian and I went on a tour. We did it with Steve Byrne and Dov Davidoff, and they told us about that. That like the Afghanis, they see women for procreation, men for pleasure. And
how do you fix that? Like, imagine trying to install a democratic government into a place that has child rape as a normal thing. He said that they would have parades where guys would have their harem of boys, and the most amount of boys would make you look like a pimp. And so it was cool to show all the boys that you're fucking. It's just like down the street, like on main streets.
Yeah. And then it just becomes generational. What's done to you, you do to the next gen, which is so tragic.
He said they had this guy who was like this mentally handicapped guy that was working in this kitchen, and they would all take turns raping this guy. And he caught him raping this guy. And the guy would just take it. It's just normal. Just normal. And they did it to each other. He said they would go into the barracks and all be fucking each other. He's like, Jesus Christ. But don't you think that that's probably how human beings behaved back in like the Spartan days?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the Spartans all fucked each other.
Yeah, the not taking it if somebody doesn't want it is like a new thing, right? Like way back in the
Consent.
day. Yeah, consent is a brand new westernized thing.
news.
It's like sarcasm and consent are just westernized things that most people don't understand.
Yeah.
And then back in the day, it was just like savagery, dude.
Savagery, full on savagery.
And you're never going to get these, like, I just had this guy on my show, his name's Jay Dyer, and he came on, he was talking about how basically British intelligence made all the borders of the Middle East. Like, they just created borders. Like, these borders that we see is this Saudi Arabia, this is that. Those were made up by British intelligence. They just basically went in based on tribes. They said, okay, here. Because most of these people are just tribes. Like, if you study, like, the history of Saudi Arabia, it is so nuts. It is so crazy. Because basically, they were just nomads. And they discovered oil there. So the banking cabal comes in and goes, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up an apparatus to extract this. And they just have to have all these terms made it up. If you, dude, I don't want to go too super deep, but it is, you read this, you go, holy shit. Like, people, I've had, you've had guests on here talking about how the British Empire didn't really end. That is the most true shit ever.
They become bankers.
They became bankers. And really, dude, I think America and Britain, our relationship really is master blaster. Right? We're just a big dumb monkey, and they just Italian, like, do this, do that. And that's really what's happening, man. If you study how, like, the British intelligence infiltrated Islam, it's like all crazy stuff, dude. They're everywhere, man. So, even when they go in like 9/11 where they're like the Saudis were involved, that's really British intelligence, man.
Well, wasn't the whole idea of suicide bombers and jihad, didn't they do that when the Soviet Union had taken over Afghanistan?
Yeah.
They did it to try to, like, fight against it.
And also demoralize them by getting them all hooked on heroin. Nobody comes out of Afghanistan the same. You go in there, try to tame that, you just can't do it.
Nobody's tamed it. It's all just warlords. It's crazy. And
Remember,
did you ever see we had Jason Everman on the podcast who was in Nirvana and also in Soundgarden and then went over to become a Special Forces soldier?
After that?
After that.
Wow.
Yeah, after that. And really fucking interesting guy. But he said that there's ancient Greek, like, construction that looks like the Parthenon in Afghanistan.
Yes.
And find some of that stuff. They have photographs of this stuff, but you can't get archaeologists out there to study it because it's too fucking dangerous. Because it's run by the Taliban.
Back to the sorcery, dude. I think a lot of this war that we see happening is about just erasing our history. Like, you remember when the Taliban were just shooting these giant, beautiful statues and destroying them? Erased. A lot of people think there's some, not a lot, but some people think that the weapon of mass destruction in Iraq is a portal. It's not really about a bomb.
What?
Yes.
This is a real weapon of mass destruction?
Well,
then?
they go in. Where do they go? The first thing they do, you ask
portal.
anybody, they go right into the museums. They start taking all the old artifacts from everything. They're wiping out.
A Stargate.
So there's a lot of talk, like this whole thing with, like, like what are the plans after October 7th and all this stuff. I think the old gods are coming back, dog. I think the old gods want to come back and reign, and I think a lot of this is about bringing back.
You mean like the Anunnaki?
No, I'm thinking like the Zoroastrianism and stuff like that. If you study Zoroaster, like if you study, dude, the weirdest thing, if you study like Statue of Liberty, that's a dude, bro. It is a cross-dresser, and it is.
Really?
Oh yeah, the Statue of Liberty is an old Zoroastrianism god called Mithras, and you get into, if you study it. You can even study like the old...
One at a time. First of all, images of ancient Greece and Afghanistan. Let's get those first. Because
Okay.
I don't want to lose this.
Okay.
I don't want to lose this. And then we're going to go to Statue of Liberty.
Okay.
So look at this stuff.
So crazy,
Like
dude.
a model of what it looked like.
That's a model of what it looked like. But
And
they do
there's
have
the
some
ruins,
images of the
yeah.
actual ruins.
Look at that.
So ancient Greek ruins in Afghanistan.
Look at that.
Fucking bananas. And no archaeology being done. Look, this is fucking insanity. And the stuff that Everman showed me is actually a little more even complex photos that he took of these ruins.
What about... Well, I can't
Look at
pronounce
that mosaic. Look at the tiles and look at these Greek statues.
I'm telling you, man.
This is all from Alexander the Great. Okay, now go to Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, I was getting in there. Hold on.
I want to see what the Statue of Liberty looks like. Is
It's-
it true the Statue of Liberty, click on that, is modeled after the Persian god Mithra?
Yes.
Hardly. First, both the original
No, this
ironic
guy's crazy.
God Mithra. Well, I don't believe any of these fact checkers anymore.
Yeah.
But let's look at the Statue of Liberty. Give me a good image of the Statue of Liberty.
It's a dude. It's a drag queen.
You sure?
Yes.
Where's
Trust
the
me.
muscles?
There it is, like Mithras, dude.
Let me see the face.
That's it right there. That's Mithras.
Damn, that does
the
look
top
like a
one.
dude.
That's Mithras.
Look at the jaw.
Yep.
It does look like a dude.
So if you study, like, who gave us Statue of Liberty? France, right?
right, go to
Where-
the photograph of the Statue of Liberty's face again. Scroll, make that one in the center big. That does look like a guy. It looks like a Greek god.
Yep. That's a dude in drag.
Look how thick the neck is.
Yeah, dude, thick neck, dude.
Look at that. Does look like a guy. Look at that one, that image 2, what says up in the top right-hand corner. That looks like a guy. Look at the arm. That does not look like a feminine arm. Look at the hand.
Old pagan
Look at the hands.
Zoroastrianism gods.
Whoa.
They're coming back, dude.
Whoa. See if you can get a better image of the Statue of Liberty. That one there, it says flicker in the middle, on the bottom in the middle. Yeah. Boy, that looks like a dude. Holy shit, Sam Tripoli. Statue of Liberty's a fucking dude.
So if you study
Go
like
back to that image of them posting it. There was an image that you just had up, but in the bottom, the scaffolding. Look at that. That's a guy, man.
so if you
That looks like Avatar, dude.
if you study the French Olympics,
Look at the arm and the
Right?
hand. Look at the hand. That's not a woman's hand.
yeah, dude, that's a thick wrist.
Wow, Statue of Liberty's a guy. Holy shit, man. Does he have breasts?
Yeah, this guy came on my podcast named Christopher Knowles, and he broke
Where's the
it all
breasts?
down.
There's no breasts.
Yeah.
Statue of Liberty does not have breasts. Wow. It's a fucking guy. Kind of. They probably added that later. That's Photoshop. Let me see. I don't see boobs.
I see a gut.
But that's my pecs. Look. See? If
He
I'm
looks
standing-
shredded.
Look, if I'm standing here like this, look at
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I have tits.
I definitely have tits. I'm trying.
Statue of Liberty breasts. Uh-oh, you're going to get to a weird porn site.
Yeah. Look at that. And
Statue of
on
Liberty getting stuck
Instagram,
in
it
the
does
dryer.
breastfeeding videos. That fat tit right there.
Well, those ones are different. That's fake. That's a big juicy titty one. She's got silicones. Yeah, those aren't real.
Bad way to look.
Bad way to look. You're going to get to a porn site. All right, Sam.
So if you
let's
go-
bring this home.
Okay. There we go.
Sam, you're the fucking man.
Thank you, buddy. I
My
love
brother.
you so
I love you
much.
too. It's always great to see you.
You've shown me so much love over the years, and I'm so appreciative of you. So thank
I'm
you.
appreciative of you as well. You're awesome. And you go hard.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank you,
that.
dude. I appreciate it.
You're special.
I have a special. It's dropping everywhere. I might put it on YouTube, but I gotta beep the shit out of it because we go pretty hard on this. But if you go to like Twitter, Sam Tripoli, you go to twitter.com/Sam Tripoli, or you go to Rumble. Rumble's been very nice to me. They featured my
Rumble's great.
Rumble put out
Rumble's
my
one of the
special.
real free speech platforms that's around.
Twitter's
now.
great too, man.
Twitter's great.
I got, dude, me? I
Yeah.
got a 3 million views on one long time ago, but I
Yeah.
never get that.
They're not
dude.
suppressed anymore.
And
when Elon took over Twitter, I gained like 7 million followers in like a couple of
Yes.
months. Like that.
Dude, they suppress.
They suppressed the fuck out of me.
Yeah,
there.
whoa.
I'm suppressed on Instagram. I'm almost positive of it.
Oh, dude,
I'm
you don't
stuck
even-
at 19.3 million. I know that's a lot, but I'm stuck there for like quite a while.
I
I'm
have
like, this is interesting.
124,000 followers, and I've had that for 5 years. Okay, can't go above it. I had a post get 25 likes.
Yeah, suppression.
It's crazy. And
It's
you can
real.
also go to samtripoli.com. You can also find all my podcasts there. My Broken Simulation, Conspiracy Social Club, Cash Daddies, and what's my other one?
You have so many podcasts.
I just can't stop, won't stop. And go to my tour dates. I'm touring, working on a new hour.
All right, my man.
Yeah, I'm very
appreciate you, brother.
appreciate you, brother.
I love you
Thank
too.
you so
I love
much,
you too.
dude.
Thanks for being here. All right, bye, everybody.